another episode of Chatty Broads with Becca and Jess.
Well, hello, broads.
Another GOAT episode and the final GOAT episode, because fuck these episodes.
I mean, honestly, fuck these episodes. Granted, I know that the next GOAT episode is Juan Pablo's, and everyone's gonna want us to probably do it.
And I haven't seen that. Oh, okay,
I know. It might be the final one. It might not be the final one. We're debating.
Depends.
We're debating. We obviously had to do this episode because it is Nick Viall's GOAT episode, and we have
love him or hate him. He's one of the GOATs.
He is the GOAT. We personally love him, and we're excited to have this conversation about him. But of course, we had to have this special. Yes, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say. Side note, also,
Yeah.
he has his. If in case this episode isn't enough for you, he also has his Patreon up too, which has all the little behind the scenes interviews.
Yes, he interviews the women,
pretty much like all of them.
And as of today, his interview, his first conversation with Vanessa is coming out, and I haven't listened to it yet. I'm really excited to listen to it.
Actually, I am too.
I'm going to listen to it and get all this tea, all this fun. So if you haven't subscribed to that, it's actually his Patreon with the ladies is very good, and I'm very excited to hear the Vanessa episode.
Oh yeah, but for this episode of our recap of Nick's season.
Yes. We're going to talk a little bit about the GOAT episode, but overall we are going to kind of have a full breakdown of Nick's entire season. And of course, we could not do that without your recent favorite guests of ours, Bachelor Clues and Pase from Game of Roses podcast.
And a little disclaimer in case you don't know like what they do or why they do it. They basically do a deep dive. I don't even want to call it a sports analysis because they take such a deep dive into the symbolism, the metaphors, the plays, the strategies of our beloved Bachelor game.
Honestly, sports are quaking thinking about the analysis that Game of Roses does.
Yes, ESPN is threatened.
ESPN shitting itself.
Actually, they're probably taking notes so that they can recreate this show.
Oh, they're learning
Fourth Bachelor
daily from Bachelor Clues and Pase. But just a heads up for you all. And like we just said a second ago, when we said that we're over the GOAT episodes, because we just kind of are, like, let's be real. And I think a lot of you,
and they're going to be over
too.
soon anyway. And then Claire's season doesn't air till October like 13th or 12th or something.
Yeah, so we found out that Claire's season doesn't air until
6 weeks.
Way beyond what we thought. October 13th, my actual birthday. And it's going to be on Tuesdays now. Thank you, Bachelor, for that birthday gift. Wow. So we have many.
Does that mean we're going to drop these episodes on Wednesdays now?
I think so.
And do Wednesday, Friday, or Wednesday, Thursday? I don't know. Anyway,
we'll keep you all updated.
Things are going to shift around.
Things are shifting, but honestly, like, things are moving, and in like the best, most positive ways, because the fact of the matter is this: Becca and I have recently had some changes with, like, you know, some of the groups that we're working with. We're super excited to be working with some new people, and I'm
like whole backstage team.
We are excited, and this is going to be have the recent months been intense. We are coming in, and I just listened to this Katy Perry song that was just dropped the other day. Katy Perry gave me
not sponsored by Katy Perry.
Gave me all the strength that I need to say, you know what? I was wanting to crawl up into a corner and just be like, I'm scared of what's going on. I'm so overwhelmed.
Do you ever feel like a plastic bag?
It's a new song, and it's going to just blow your mind. We'll talk about it at a different date. But it gave me the energy that I'm like, no, I am not going to be scared. We're going to kick down doors. We're going to just become we're going to just take over. Okay. And I don't mean just you and me. I mean the broads. We are here for justice. We are here for Bachelor analysis. We are here for living and taking this world and taking care of it. All these things.
It's scaring me.
I'm pretty intense right now.
You know what we are doing
Tell me.
in our plan to take over the world, which I'm really excited about. So, since we're kind of over the whole GOAT thing and we need some filler until Claire's season, because we like our identities are just all over the place now that we don't have our regularly scheduled Bachelor programming. I'm fucking loving it, I have to say. Sorry, Bachelor fans. But anyway, what we're going to do is every week we're kind of going to do like what's up in the world. So, I mean, we're going to cover we'll probably just try to keep it lighter, like in place of Bachelor recaps, and do like stupid celebrity drama shit. But send us anything you want us to talk about, or even just general topics. We're just gonna have at least one episode a week where we're just chatting it up like broads do.
So we'll probably have those Tuesdays instead of these GOAT recaps. We obviously will be covering Bachelor tea because shit is hitting the fan every single week. Yeah. But then after we talk about the tea, there's a lot fun stuff that we can cover. Let us know.
Serious stuff, whatever. Just or even like topics if there's anything that we've never covered where you were like, oh, can you guys discuss this? Send
it's gonna be good. I'm excited, and I think that just the foundation of who we are as a podcast is that this is the Broad Squad. This is not just Becca and I. This is the Broad Squad, and I feel like in recent months there's just been so much going on, so many changes, that we need to unite together as a Broad Squad again.
Broads divided will not stand.
Broads divided will not stand. We must be a family, continue to be a family. And until The Bachelor airs on October 13th, these next few weeks, we want to use these episodes as a way to just touch base with everybody. Let's talk about the weird, wild shit. Let's just do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's that.
And with that,
but we'll keep you all updated. Oh, and also, sorry, all over the place. Too much caffeine. We have an episode coming out on Thursday that you absolutely need to check out. We have an incredible guest, and we are talking all things polyamory. It was a very good episode.
Yeah, we recorded it earlier. It was amazing.
Amazing. So check that out on Thursday. But without further ado, let's get into Nick Viall's season breakdown, baby.
Dun, dun, dun.
Broads, I'm quaking.
You are in for a real treat.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Jess.
Yes, Becca.
We have not received the kind of response literally ever for an episode like we did for the one we had last time with these guests. Seriously, it was unprecedented. I mean, I knew it was going to happen. I'm not surprised. Craig is quaking. Craig is very nervous because he's about to be dethroned as the favorite guest. But I knew it was going to happen. I was very aware because they are a jewel that, somehow some people were not aware of, and now they are. Now it's, now it's going to be the demand that they're constantly on, which I'm more than happy to beg for them to continue to come on. I agree. I second that motion. And so with that, we present the Game of Roses hosts.
Thank you
Bachelor
very
Clues.
much. It is a pleasure to be here as always. We love you guys, and thank you for having us again.
Absolutely.
I'm just glad it wasn't a bunch of hate mail.
No, last episode was phenomenal. We didn't actually get we got nothing bad, nothing negative to say.
Oh, fantastic.
I'm sure there were a few, but there's always some that we just don't notice.
We just ignore them. Like that didn't happen. We got no negativity.
But no, truly the two of you, clearly the broads, they loved it. And when we found out that we were going to be able to watch Nick Viall's GOAT episode, that was going to be the one airing, of course we thought we have to have this conversation with Bachelor Clues and Pase case. We have to have the Nick conversation.
And we're happy to have it. I mean, the GOAT episodes have not been a highlight for us. Let's just say that over the course of the season. But Nick Viall, as we know, is the greatest player in history. His GOAT episode is coming up. And we know that what they're going to do in that episode, what you're going to see in that 3 hours of nothing, is going to not even scratch the surface of what this season really was all about, because it was a historic season. It was a huge, important piece of The Bachelor as a franchise, American pop culture, where it was headed, all of that kind of stuff. And what we've prepared for you, I'll just say, is robust. It is comprehensive. We are really going to get into the season with you guys today and talk about all the most important plays, what it meant for society at large, what it meant for Nick Viall, what it meant for the Bachelor franchise. And we think that before we can begin that, before you can begin to understand season 21 of The Bachelor, you must first understand the Bachelor himself. We are, of course, talking about Nick Viall.
The man, the myth, the legend.
Indeed.
He grew up in a large family 11 children. So this immediately forces him into the role of father figure. It starts to develop him psychologically at a young age. He even brings this up on Andy Dorfman's season, his rookie season, if you will, which we have done a full breakdown of in our last week's episode at Game of Roses, if you want to go check that out. But in addition to kind of being this father figure to all of his brothers and sisters, he also develops the skill in early childhood of being able to navigate a large group psychosocial dynamic. So he becomes used to this. He even thrives in this environment at a very early age. And this is obviously going to play a huge part in why he's so good at The Bachelor later on.
Fascinating.
So after childhood, Mr. Viall goes to high school, where he begins an athletic career in the sport of track. Now, a lot of people may not know this. Yes, track is physical. You have to have great cardio. You have to be in shape. But it's primarily a psychological sport. It's really just you, the sound of your breath as you're jogging or sprinting, whatever the case may be, and your will to beat the other players, especially what he does, which is the 3,200 meter. This is a game of attrition. Can you outlast the other players as you are running around the track?
How the fuck did you find this out?
2 miles. I go on internet.com.
Guys, no one has studied Nick Viall more than Bachelor Clues. This is definitive.
I mean, look, it's simply true. It's simply true.
I am confident that though we know him personally, that you know him much better. I'm confident.
Maybe more than he knows himself.
Agreed.
Look, I'll accept that as true. I think it is right. But so he eventually goes to college. University of Wisconsin, Milwaukee. This is a D1 school, the highest level of athletic competition that you can have in America. He sets a fucking school record in the 3,200 meter. So not only is he highly competitive, he is successful at it. He tastes victory in this endeavor.
I'm shocked he doesn't talk about this. That's actually a pretty big deal. So I'm shocked he doesn't talk about this.
I know.
Well, it comes into play to some degree. We'll get to in his season. Like track definitely comes back into it. But after he graduates college, he just gets a kind of run-of-the-mill job at this company called Salesforce. Right, exactly. No pun intended. And he's basically selling software, sitting behind a desk. All of his competitive gusto just gone to the kind of mundane days of adulthood. But one of his social engagements around this time is every Monday night, he goes to his friend Marcos Hernandez's house to watch The Bachelor with Marcos and his wife, Kaya. And I'm sure one night after Nick has regaled them with a bad date or a relationship gone wrong, maybe somebody made love to him without being in love with him, Marcos's wife decides, I'm going to sign him up for The Bachelor. And she goes on the website and puts him in. And the rest, obviously, is history. His first appearance is May 19th, 2014, Bachelorette Season 10, Andy Dorfman. As I said, we did a comprehensive breakdown of the season on our last podcast. Please go listen if you would like to. The things to really take away from that season are, 1, he wins the FIMP Rose, the first impression rose. And in this moment, that feeling of setting a school record comes right back to him. He is now at the top of his competitive game again. He is inserted into this social dynamic situation that's like it was in childhood, and he is competing against these other people. 2, he's immediately perceived by all of the other players on this season as a super competitor. They constantly talk about him only viewing the show as a game and using terms of game play to describe it and all this, and that becomes kind of a big piece of how they try to take him down. And 3, he ends this season in second place after Fantasy Suites. Andy claims to have just felt something was off, but we now know from her book and other interviews she's done over the years that it might have actually been his awkward chemistry game in the Fantasy Suite that was the end of that relationship. Read Andy's book if you want more details.
I see, Becca, your mouth is open. Did you not know about this?
I don't know about this.
Yes.
She describes in great detail in her book some sexual encounters, shall we say.
Yeah, she really came for him after he made the "Why did you make love to me?" comment. She really put it all out there.
Yeah, that was a mistake on his part for sure.
Yes.
But he
was it a mistake? I feel like that's an iconic line.
It is very iconic. In fact, it's tattooed on my lower back.
It's actually seared in. It was seared into my memory, and I brought this up so many times, but yeah, I found him repulsive. That was my word. Following that line, I could not handle it. Now I know
Iconic.
and love him dearly, and it is iconic. But
So after Andy's season, he's played the game once, and he came in second place.
Wait, by the way, you know how you're talking about the sibling thing? Can we talk about how much his little sister was a part of the seasons that he was in? Mm-hmm. About how she was like, it would cut to her crying, like in the audience when he was describing being heartbroken. And she was like 7.
Mm-hmm. She's a star. Precursor to Sweet Gnomes, Pee-Pee's mom.
Yeah. His little sister does some very strong family play throughout his entire career.
She walked so Sweet Gnomes could run.
Yeah,
exactly. Sweet Gnomes owes it all to her. But so after Andy Dorfman's season, he's played this game once and he came very close to winning. He cannot let that feeling go. Still chasing the victory that he had in college, still chasing the victory of the first impression rose. But he knows the game. And he knows now that statistically, the first 3 weeks of the show are the hardest to get through, especially night 1, because a third of the players go home. So what does he do? He initiates an incredibly experimental preseason play style where he starts to DM Kaitlyn Bristowe. He sets up this pre-relationship. Then he gets the producer's help to come into her season in episode 4.
Beautiful.
He bypasses all of the hardest rounds. He immediately paints a target on himself, but he knows what he's doing now. This is Viall 2.0, and he will not be denied.
Question, is Nick the very first player to begin the outside relationship that then infiltrates the actual filming?
It is impossible to actually know that without interviewing literally every player, I think.
We're going to have to do that.
Until he came back.
It's at least among the first that they used it as part of his story when he comes back in, for sure.
Okay. All right.
But
Legend.
He does another second place run here in Kaitlyn's season. He gets all the way to the end. She gives a very similar answer for breaking up with him. It just didn't feel right. Again, this breakup comes immediately after Fantasy Suites and the exact same thing. But now he's done 2 seasons, 2 second place finishes. Astounding, obviously, but in his mind, this is 2 losses. But because he's part of the Bachelor world now, he gets invited to Bachelor in Paradise. He shows up. He is unenthused. He's bored because he's not playing a game anymore. You're just kind of meandering around trying to hook up with somebody to like last as long as you can. But it's not that highly competitive thing that he's used to and that he wants. And then eventually, of course, he gets enough screen time. The producers have set this up to give him the crown. He becomes the Bachelor. And we're about to break that season down, but it's important to know that ultimately this is even a more unfulfilling experience for him than BIP was, because now he is in the game again. He just doesn't get to play. It's this kind of cruel torture for him to be given the best seat in the house to watch all these other players playing a game at a level so far below what he's capable of that it drives him insane.
No one can compete with him.
Before we get to next season, though, we do have to discuss it in the context of the lack of diversity on the show at the time. They debut in 2002, don't have a non-white lead until 2014 with the charismatic charmer Juan Pablo, who's a white-presenting Venezuelan bachelor. And this is only after the show faces a class action lawsuit by 2 black applicants for racial discrimination in casting 2 years before. The judge ruled in favor of the show, however, that they could cast who they wanted. So basically this means someone stood up to the inherently discriminatory casting practices of the show, tried to use the legal system to get it changed, and failed. Any change would only come from the powers that be on the show deciding it would change. Just to give you a clear picture of what it was like in this era for players of color, here are some stats. Both of Nick's Bachelorette seasons, Andy and Kaitlyn, had 22 out of 25 white players. This is 88% white. At that point, a black contestant had never lasted longer than 5 weeks. In fact, around 60% of black Bachelor and Bachelorette contestants left the show within 2 weeks. Most of the seasons are 10 weeks long. And that was just the norm for the show at this time. That was what was fucking expected. As far as the Bachelor seasons that came before Nick, seasons 15 and 16 had 0 players of color. Chris Soules, season 19, had 29 white women out of 30. That's 97% white. Ben Higgins, the Bachelor just before Nick, had 24 white women out of 28. That's 86% white cast. And this wasn't just in Bachelor Nation. You had the 88th Academy Awards just before this in 2016 had Oscars So White trending. And this is when JoJo Fletcher is picked to be the next Bachelorette over Kayla Quinn, who would have been the first and only Asian lead of the franchise. And then the hashtags Bachelor So White and Bachelorette So White start trending. This is the most vocal cry from Bachelor Nation to diversify the casting of the show we've yet heard, a precursor to batch diversity. And as a result, Nick's Bachelor season 21, marks the first real move taken by the show towards a higher level of representation. They doubled the usual number of players of color. They had 10 out of Nick's 30 players are players of color. This is 30%. It's the highest level of diversity we've ever seen in the game at this point. And now Nick Viall has been exclusively dating in the Bachelor world for 3 years. Two things are clear here. He's extremely damaged, and it's going to be difficult for him to find love. And two, he is a company man. He will do whatever the producers tell him. So he uses this season to not only start a trend of 30% diversity in casting that we still see today, but season 21 of The Bachelor was specifically designed to give us our first Black Bachelorette, Rachel Lindsay. And that's just what was going on in Bachelor Nation. In the world at large, his season shoots September through November of 2016. There was a little event taking place called the American presidential election, literally while they were shooting. So just keep that in mind as we go through season 21.
Wow.
You know, what's so interesting, and I know we said this off camera, but the both of you haven't watched the actual Nick GOAT episode yet, and Becca and I have, and we probably will discuss it at some point, but we both it was very obvious that Nick was not the star of the episode in this GOAT episode. The franchise definitely focused on the women of color, and they gave a lot of time to Taylor, which was, she had some of the most legendary moments ever in this episode. And they really focused a lot on Rachel Lindsay. In fact, in all the other GOAT episodes, you just see them really focus on the top two, and they continue.
And maybe the villain or whatever.
Yeah, or the villain. But it was like towards the end of the episode, they always say, okay, well, you know, they show the final love story of the top two, but they included Rachel Lindsay and they kept talking about her. And then, in fact, they brought in, they did not interview Rachel Lindsay. They brought in Tayshia and Natasha from Pete's season and had them talk about what it meant for them to see Rachel Lindsay as the first Black Bachelorette. So it was, they very much like focused on that in the episode. They also focused on Rachel's hometown with Nick, where they have the conversations with her mother and her sister about interracial relationships. It was very interesting.
And the brother-in-law, who describes himself as a white.
Yes.
I don't know if they put that in the GOAT episode, but that was
Probably
one of the
not.
craziest.
They definitely
lines in the
did.
thing.
They definitely
They
did.
did.
He's you heard him say to Nick, I noticed that you're a white.
Yeah.
That was one of my favorite lines. Did they mention the presidential election in the GOAT episode?
They did not.
Probably not.
No.
This
is important to know.
We long theorized that Rachel Lindsay was cast before next season specifically to be the first Black Bachelorette.
Yeah, that's why I was wondering what your theory was on that. Similarly to
we kind of,
what's his name? I can't think of his name. Our new Bachelor,
Matt James.
Similar to Matt James,
James.
being specifically selected for that role.
yeah. I think as we'll get to it as we go through all the things that happened in season one, but it seems like there was a lot of it that was just orchestrated for her to walk through to the end, basically, you know? And I think, I don't know, to me, it bears out. We will never know this. And I don't know if Rachel Lindsay knew that. She might have just been like doing what she was told. And I'm sure they didn't probably say, hey, you're going to be the Bachelorette. Nick might have known it, though. I think Nick probably was told to do certain things. And one of those things starts on night one, which is where all seasons start. So on night one of season 21 of The Bachelor, again, this is the worst night statistically in any season. A third of the players are going to go home this night. One thing that they have done in the modern era is they always open night one with these video packages of a few players, 5 to 7 of them. Usually they will show you who's going to be the final two. They're going to show you somebody who's going to be funny, a villain, whatever. The first video package we see, who do you think it is?
Rachel
Lindsay. She is the first face of the new season of players that we see. To me, this is a clear sign that they're like, check her out. You're going to be seeing a lot more of her. Notable limo exits. Lacey Mark had a Grandy Standy. She rides in on a camel and says, I hear you like a good hump. Alexis Waters, of course. How can we forget? Comes in a shark costume.
Of course.
Saying she's a dolphin. This becomes her identity for the rest of her career in Bachelor Nation.
Which, by the way, during the GOAT episode, of course, Chris Harrison called her. She was in her shark, aka dolphin costume, and she was doing the dolphin call, squealing the whole time.
That's incredible. So she was able to milk that trick or treat for 4 years.
Correct.
Jesus Christ.
And they interview her above Rachel. Interesting.
Hats off to her. We also get Liz Sandoz, who says she had a one-night stand with Nick and wonders if he's going to remember who she is. And we see the producers are trying to set up a bomb for him here. This is meant to be something that will blow up the entire season potentially. They've orchestrated it. And then once everybody gets in the house, we get what Lizzie and I have dubbed the You're Not So Special. This is a tactic used by producers where they will cast 5 Laurens or 5 flight attendants. In this case, it's 15 women in red dresses, literally. So they do this specifically to raise anxiety and get everybody in the house
Was it
scared
actually
of like,
15?
I'm not. Rachel Lindsay said that, but that might have been an exaggeration.
Okay.
It was probably at least 7 or 8, though. I mean, there were a lot of damn red dresses that season.
You want to know a little background info? They say like when you're in the hotel for like 3 days before the night one happens, on one day they'll be like, pick out your like top 3 outfits for night one, and we'll have like a producer come in and like give opinions.
Stop it.
Yeah, and so that's like that was obviously what happened. They were like, this is perfect. Like 10 different girls have red dresses as one of their options. So that means that each of those girls, they were like, you know what? That's the one. That's the one you should. That's the one you should. That's the one you should wear.
Absolutely. I mean, we call it the You're Not Special. It's a producer move, like 100%. Then we see Corinne Olympios. She kind of makes her first splash onto the scene by getting the first steal, the first kiss. She initiates this hyper aggressive play style that Nick even comments on in one of his confessionals, saying it's a strong move. He appreciates this play because it mirrors exactly what he did on Andy Dorfman's season. He sees a little bit of himself in her. And then the
I was
going to
say, does Nick respect Corinne on a basic player level?
100%, yes.
Absolutely.
She was a phenomenal player.
She was incredible. She was incredible. What they did to her is really sad, ultimately, in my opinion. But then Rachel gets
so much
the
potential.
Fimprose. She had so much. And Rachel is awarded the first impression rose. This is historic. First Black player in the history of the game to get a first impression rose. And again, we theorize this might have been orchestrated by the producers because we know, per Nick Viall's own admission, night one, he already picked Vanessa Grimaldi to win the whole thing. He already knew that was happening. Why wouldn't he have given her the first impression rose? Because the producers, I'm sure, said, you're giving it to our next Bachelorette. So just
he
some
has discussed this.
What's that?
He has discussed. I mean, he's been very, very open about the fact that Vanessa was his woman the whole time. And I will say this, rewatching the GOAT episode, I don't know if you had this same feeling, but now knowing him and knowing like what women, like what type of woman physically he goes for. If I would have been one of his friends watching this season, the second Vanessa stepped out of the limo, I'd be like, I'm giving her the ring right now. I mean, that is so spot on, specifically like who he goes for. Like we probably pick out a lineup and be like, these are the people.
Yeah, because we had him on an episode where we were doing the breakdown of the cast for
Pete's season.
Yeah. We didn't end up airing that. We ended up actually re-recording it without him. But that one's in the archives. One day when we have a Patreon, we'll put that one on there. But yeah, it was like he would be like, that girl's, oh yeah, she's gorgeous. Next girl's silent. But that girl, she's gorgeous. So we've got a pretty solid idea now.
It's very
what
clear.
The type is. But anyway, we digress.
Then we get into week one. It's your first week of standard play, first one-on-ones, first group dates. All the players move into the house. Shit starts getting real. The first group date is a role play wedding themed photo shoot. Certain players are given certain costumed identities. Some are glam brides. Others are bridesmaids. Others are the clown. Dolphin Shark Alexis is cast as the shotgun bride, has a fake pregnant belly and a gun for some reason. The producers are trying to force you into these roles and instigate fights this way. This group date is also a PFT, play for time, which can include screen time, possibility to get a rose, and more time with the Bachelor. This is like, Becca, your date with Ari when you won the Moulin Rouge competition on your season. Got extra time with Ari. Mm-hmm. But it's very important that you win these by any means necessary. And Corinne knows this going in. And we are treated to the Corinne show. She absolutely dominates this date. She
psychs out the players like no one else.
Chemistry game. It's unbelievable to watch. It culminates in her voluntary nudity play in the pool where she takes off her bikini top, Janet Jackson style. It has Nick cup her boobs in front of everyone. Just amazing.
Courtney Robinson walked so Corinne could run.
Yeah, seriously.
Yes, exactly.
Can we
studied
agree?
Her play.
Can we agree, the four of us, that potentially that group date was one of the top 3 best group dates ever?
Yeah, I will agree.
Yeah, it was
absolutely
incredible to me to watch that one for sure.
To see the dynamic of
and
all the different,
just like the costumes, the villain, the nudity, it had everything.
Nick in a leather vest.
It had, you saw the specific personalities of each person.
It's so true.
And then they gave them the clothing. They right away
reactions of the other girls.
It was art. And until rewatching the G.O.A.T episode, I forgot the level of which Corinne taking her breasts and pushing them against Nick's chest and his face and his expression, and he puts his hands up just like this. Like, I'm not... You see my hands? I'm innocent in this situation. No lawsuits, please. It was perfection.
Jess has her arms up right now. They're also, I think, like, everyone kissed him on his date, too, which is always great to see.
Yes.
But yeah, as if Corinne doesn't stomp all over everyone else enough at the beginning part of this date, at the after party, she's the first responder. She grabs Nick first. She has 2 steals, 5 kisses, and she gets the group date rose. Wow. She sets the tone for the entire season with
Legendary.
this. It's a controversial, aggressive style of play. And yeah, again, Nick loves it because it reminds him of himself. He sees a reflection of Nick in his early days in Corinne, and it's as close as he'll come to playing again.
There was something magical about watching the two of them together. As a viewer who did not have as much insight at the time and wasn't dissecting it in the pit, as you both say,
a normal viewer,
a normal viewer, I remember watching the two of them together and being like, there is something magical that's happening, but it wasn't like, oh, they're in love, and it wasn't a chemistry. And now when you say it was him looking at himself, it all makes sense,
right?
To me.
Because it was like sort of shocking every week that she would continue on, but also completely unsurprising at the same time. And I remember having a feeling where I'm like, she could take this all the way.
She could take it all the way.
She could take this all the way.
Mm-hmm. Indeed.
Which isn't what happened, but
she takes it further than you think she's going to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know, she makes it to hometowns.
Yeah.
Then we have the first one-on-one goes to Danielle Maltby, the sweet neonatal nurse. They roll out the fucking red carpet for her. It's a one-on-one. It's a get to the chopper, which they land on a yacht, which also has a hot tub on it. And then they go on a Ferris wheel after that. This basically means the producers saw deep runs for her. And over the course of this date, she has 2 kisses and she plays her triple PTC, her personal tragedy card. There's 4 categories of PTCs. You have heartbreak, addiction, divorce, and death. And she hits 3 of the 4 here. She explains that she found the body of her ex-fiance who died of an overdose. It's a tragic story. It's addiction, heartbreak, and death all in one PTC. Nick is powerless against this move. She's instantly rewarded with the rose. And then we get to the second group date. It's a public performance at the Museum of Broken Relationships. The players have to write and perform a scene where they pretend to dump Nick. And
such a good date.
Liz Sant. Yeah. I mean, you have often these dates where you have to like prepare a piece of material. So it's very good to maybe take an improv class before you go on.
Seriously. I know. Well, the ones where they have to do like whole comedic sketches or like stand-up comedy bits, those are the only ones, or like perform a song. Those are the only ones I've watched where I'm like, I would not want to do this. This is insane.
I mean, the stand-up comedy, are you kidding me? I'm like, granted, I'm horrified, but if I'm going into The Bachelor or The Bachelor, I have my 5 minutes ready. I'm going in with my 5 minutes ready.
You have to. Preseason play, it has to include that. You should definitely prepare a song, a poem, a 5-minute stand-up routine, a deep personal confession. Definitely do these things. Like, there's no reason not to. You've got a couple of months.
I'm writing it down right now. I'm writing notes. So, broads, the older I get, the more I see my taste moving towards refined simplicity. Like, don't get me wrong, I love my glitter, I love my leopard print, but there's something to be said. It's so nice about having those luxe classic pieces that will always and forever be beautiful and oh so chic, and really classic pieces can pair with any style at any time of your life, which I love. And that's the reason they're classics. And when we talk about classic, let's talk about Jenni Kayne. Jenni Kayne gets it right with their timeless neutrals and classic styles. I can't get enough of this brand.
My God, broads. Jenni Kayne, they have it all from home to wardrobe. They combine 1 part effortless style with 2 parts comfort and add a dash of refined simplicity, sprinkle it on there, mix well and serve year round, broads. And when it comes to their home products, oh my God, their curated staples inspired by the natural, effortless aesthetic of California living is fantastic. And I think, to put it simply, everything by Jenni Kayne is just dreamy. It really is. It's going to look great in anyone's household. Their chairs, their tables, their throws, everything is high quality, absolutely stunning, and everything will last you forever.
Yeah, that's one of my most favorite things about it, is that it's just so timeless.
Yeah.
The curation of their pieces is so good. Luxe fabrics, neutral color palette, gorgeous woods. And I'll tell you this, before Ember was born, I was lucky enough to discover Jenni Kayne, and I got numerous pieces in her nursery from them. And let me tell you, it was the most proud of a room in my house I have ever been, or probably will ever be. I recently got some new pillows for our couch that just made the couch. You just have to go to their website and check it out. You'll just be drooling. And like Becca said, they have a broad variety of items for the broads, not just home. My guess is you've probably seen someone online looking stunning and asked where they got those.
Pieces are really cute.
Asked where they got those mules or that sweater or those hoops from, and their answer was probably Jenni Kayne. It's incredible. They've got it all, and it's just perfection. And P.S. hot tip, check out their work from home uniform.
Ooh.
So good.
Sexy. Make styling your home or getting dressed the easiest part of your routine at jennikayne.com. Plus, you'll get 20% off your first order. That's actually really good. When you use code CHATTY at checkout. Now, that's spelled JENNIKAYNE.com. Promo code CHATTY. jennikayne.com, promo code CHATTY.
So, broads, you know those errands that are so necessary but such a hassle to do, like putting gas in your car or standing in line at the post office? It just seems like there's never a good time to do those errands, and that they're somehow always on your to-do list. And especially now, I know most of us are trying to avoid those lines and those crowds. And while I can't help you with all of them, I will tell you how to cross the post office off your to-do list for the long run. And that is by using Stamps.com, the website that brings the post office right to your living room or home office.
Oh my gosh, I preach Stamps.com to everyone. It's the greatest thing, whether you're sending out orders, mailing invoices, or shipping back packages. There's nothing you can't do on Stamps.com. You can even print out regular postage if you're going to like send your grandma a letter or whatever, send out thank you cards.
Grammy.
Anything that you could do at the post office, you can do it at home. And you're going to save money with discounted rates that aren't even available at the post office. It's true. I used it recently and was like, oh, I don't have to spend $40 on shipping this 15-pound item. It's only $20. Up to 62% off residential UPS and USPS rates and 5 cents off every stamp. So,
I mean, yeah, you save so much. It's pretty wild. I started using Stamps.com years ago when I was still doing wardrobe styling to send those clothes around the country, and the amount The amount of time and the amount of money that I saved using Stamps.com, it was
True lifesaver.
Wild. Those gowns are heavy. It gets real expensive. Saving time and money has never been easier, broads, so you can use your computer to print out official U.S. postage 24/7 for any letter, any package, any class of mail, anywhere you want to send. Once your mail is ready, you can drop it in the mailbox or schedule a pickup without ever leaving your home. And if you're a small business trying to survive right now, Stamps.com is exactly what you need. It's the best, easiest, and most inexpensive way to take care of business.
Right now, our listeners get a special offer that includes a 4-week trial plus free postage and a digital scale without any long-term commitment. You just have to go to Stamps.com, click on the microphone at the top of the homepage, and type in Chatty. That's Stamps.com, enter Chatty.
All right.
Liz basically fucks up during this group date, and she confronts Nick about their one-night stand during their public performance. It's bad.
It was such an unfortunate
Nick immediately
play.
tells her.
I remember feeling bad for her watching this, where I was just like, oh, why
But that
are you
was
doing
very
this?
likely a producer thing too. I can just hear the producer in her ear, like, just have the conversation with him right here. Make it seem like it's fake. That way you can walk out of it. If it doesn't work, you can just play it off like a joke, you know? And meanwhile, they get her to tell her like her deepest, darkest secret.
Brutal.
And then, Nick goes, it's quote unquote best for both of them if she goes home right now. It's a very scorched earth strategy. Destroy all the evidence. Make sure the women only hear one side of the story. And Liz goes home. At the cocktail party, Corinne is riding high on her chemistry game, takes it to the next level with the whipped cream and the trench coat. Just continues that fantastic play. And at the rose ceremony, all the players are standing at the risers, nervous. Corinne is fucking asleep in her bed. She skips the rose ceremony for a nap. It was a hyper dominance move, forced all the other women to endure this humiliating ceremony, and I loved it.
Which, by the way, is like the
it's gonna be her
producers.
downfall, but
The producers were so on her side with this one too, because I cannot count the amount of times where I tried to quietly sneak away to take a nap. Those rose ceremonies are hours long, and it's pretty phenomenal that producers were literally like, yeah, they probably were like, you're tired, sweetie, go take a nap. Go rest your eyes. That would literally not fly under any other circumstance. No matter what was going on in the house, we were forced to be awake, forced to go, even if it was 1 o'clock in the morning, we're waiting for someone to come home from a date. They'd be like, go downstairs, get dressed, go to sit. It's incredible that she had so much power on her side.
She might as well have peed all over all the other women, because the level
And peed on Nick
because the level of dominance and like such a power move. I mean, especially of all the most important of ceremonies to happen during this whole thing, that she's snoozing through it in her sweats. She's had a couple drinks. I mean, and she just doesn't give a shit. It's incredible.
I totally agree.
I mean, it's iconic.
I remember watching this season, and I was making memes on Facebook about Corinne. They would get like 4 likes, but I was like, Corinne is my queen. This is the best character ever on the show. Me and my roommate were so obsessed with her.
Obsessed.
She was my favorite player from that season for sure.
Yeah, it was like I remember I made one of those Valentine's Day memes. It was about emotional intelligence or something. But anyway.
So then we go into week 2. And at this point in the season, we're starting to see front runners developing. We're starting to see rivalries, villains. The producers are starting to force the situation in some of these plots. And our first group date that week is the Backstreet Boys. This is one of our celebrity dates, which all the players have to be super excited about. They all go to a rehearsal studio. They have a dance competition. Danielle Lombard is the best dancer, so she wins that group date, wins the group date rose. And then the most interesting thing that happens on this date is later at the cocktail party after it. Corinne says, make Corinne great again. And we don't think anything of this. It's just some little joke, right? But this is an extremely rare political reference in the show. You never see them. And it's a Trump reference. And yes, it's kind of making fun of that, but the producers are actively putting it in the show to give you some affiliation with Trump himself, to present it as like cute and jokey, not a threat at all. Certainly not the end of America. And we'll leave that there. We'll leave that there. It may come up again later. So then we
now
go to the
you guys
one
are
on
going to get hate mail.
Oh, sorry. You can edit out all this stuff.
No, never. Absolutely not. Continue. Never stop. Continue.
Then we go to the one-on-one of this week. It's Vanessa. They go in this 0G plane. They're flipping around, spinning around, and Vanessa does an IFI, injury, fear, illness play. This can be a real or faked injury, fear, or illness, but it basically serves to exempt you from a group activity if you're on a group date or stop some kind of violent thing being done to you in the game. So she's sitting in the corner puking as they're no longer flipping around, and Nick is consoling her, arm around her as she is vomiting into a bag. And at dinner, she plays her PTC. Grandpa died 3 weeks before coming on the show. She gets that rose. Then we go to the second group date. And here's where we see Nick shine. Usually the leads always get one date where they are in their element. Jesse Palmer got to play football. He was a New York Giants starting quarterback for the NFL when he was on that season. So here Nick gets to do a track and field event. They go out to a track. He's in his natural element again. And we hear that it's going to be a play for time. 3 Olympians show up as the guest celebrities, and everybody has to compete in these different events that they cull together and call it the Nick-athlon.
Wow.
But there is no objective outcome here. The 3, in quotes, top players are just going to be subjectively determined by these Olympians, and those 3 will face off in a race. So this is another element of the producers forcing an outcome that they want. Mm-hmm. And so the final 3 end up being Rachel, Astrid, and Alexis. And Rachel beats them in this race by 3 body lengths. I think it's clear they chose okay, Rachel's a pretty good athlete. Let's take the 2 least athletic people so she can win this. But the producers have a fatal flaw by setting up this little pedestal with a diamond ring that the winner has to snatch. So Rachel misses that, and Astrid ends up winning this group date play for time. And she gets the time in the hot tub with Nick, but it doesn't matter. The producers still give Rachel the group date rose at the end of this. And then the cocktail party. Yeah, exactly. Order is restored. The Bachelorette's ascendancy is intact. And then at the end of this, the cocktail party is replaced by a pool party where Corinne, once again, does one of these hyper dominance moves by getting the producers to help her bring in a bouncy house where she mounts Nick like a softcore porn. And as she is on top of him, making out with him, it's also perfectly placed within eye shot of all the other players. They're watching it happen. And some people think it's a step too far, but this pays off because she gets the rose.
She always gets the rose.
Then we get to the travel round. They venture to the place that formed Sweet Nicki. It's Waukesha, Wisconsin. Nick meets up with his parents. His mom cries. She's like, I hope you can find your own woman that you can impregnate constantly for 10 years to produce 11 children by Al style.
By Al style.
D'Lo gets the first one-on-one. They run into Nick's ex-girlfriend on this date who's mic'd up. Nothing comes of this. This is just for a promo. And she's like, he's a great guy. Hope you guys have a great life together. Bye. There's nothing here.
There is this
D'Lo
constant
then plays her PTC.
There is this constant reinforcement though of Nick sleeps with a lot of people. Is sort of this overarching theme that seems to keep coming up. I mean, he talked about his sex with Andy on Andy's season. He obviously slept with Caitlyn before even Fantasy Suites in that season. And then in his own season, we have Liz, who's already slept with him before the show. Then we have this ex coming up as well. Then we have Corinne trying to do her little private moment with him. It's kind of interesting.
We
it's
have Reality
time
Steve talking about all these women. Yes.
It's it seems like reinforced by external forces again and again that he is this womanizer, just sex god or whatever is sort of how he continues to be painted.
Except he always gets dumped immediately after having sex with any woman. Other than that, he's a sex god. I mean, not any woman. No. I'm just saying any woman on national television. That's all.
Back to D'Lo's date. She plays her PTC. It's her parents' divorce. She gets the rose immediately. We have then the group date. That's the Roughing It farm date where they often have the players do something like this where they're forced to do something physically uncomfortable or disgusting and traumatic. In this case, it's milking cows and shoveling shit.
Oh my God, I remember this
Corinne
so vividly.
refuses to shovel shit, fakes an IFI illness, fear, or injury, and says her hand is broken or something. She doesn't get more time with Nick for that, but she does avoid some of the shit shoveling. Christina hints at a PTC on this date that is so devastating she can't yet reveal it, and this hint is enough to get the group date rose. Excellent job, Christina. And you have the second one-on-one is an early meeting of the family. This is a high honor prestige type date reserved for frontrunners, and it goes to Raven. And this is where we meet Nick's child sister at her soccer game. And then they go roller skating, which is one of Nick's superpowers. He loves roller skating. He's always making roller skating videos. Takes any opportunity he can to strap on his wheels, take a spin. I think he sees it as a demonstration of higher value. And Raven goes into detail about her PTC. She assaulted her ex-boyfriend when she caught him cheating on her. And Nick gives her the rose as a reward, as well as some more wheel time.
I have a question about the role of the family meeting thing, because we saw this in Pete season with Madison, like wasn't that week 1?
Yes.
Week 1.
Yeah.
Very first one-on-one date.
Also saw it week 1 in Ari season with Crystal, and or it was maybe week 2. But like, I'm curious about what, like you said, it's a high honor one-on-one date. But what about in the case of like Crystal? Do you believe in those kind of situations that person actually is slated to be a top contender, and then things go south and the person accidentally becomes the villain, or is it to create jealousy in the, or like what do you feel like is the role of that type of date?
I think it can be used for a wide variety of things, but primarily anyone who gets a one-on-one in the first half of the regular season, those one-on-ones are always setups for people that they think are going to have long runs. Those are the people that the leads very usually are saying they're in my top 3. And especially the meeting of the family date, like that's never used, I feel like, to set up a villain or to set up any kind of a rivalry. It's almost exclusively, at least to our knowledge, it is exclusively used to be like, this is a meaningful thing, and hopefully this person winds up in the final 2. So Crystal,
Sweetnum's vow renewal, that is as prestigious you can get.
Better. Yeah.
I mean, that's like blood sacrifice type producer business.
it is. It definitely is. There's some bodies buried to get that deal done.
What did the Pruitts do to get that deal for Maddie in the first round? No one will know.
Oh my God. For real though.
Incredible.
Oh man. Where was I? Raven continues her date.
Oh, yeah.
Tells the rest of her PTC about, I think she assaulted her ex-boyfriend with a high-heeled shoe of the woman he was cheating on her with.
Yes.
And she gets the rose. And
Nick's like, please don't do that to me.
Yeah, and she
exactly.
also
He's terrified.
she also like solidifies the pretty huge fandom within that one-on-one date as well. It's kind of bizarre.
Fandom of the country?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I wish we had
I think people can relate to it.
For sure.
She was definitely one of the tops. Like I remember after that date, it was all of a sudden everyone was all about Raven. And are you going to credit Nick's roller skating skills to part of the reason why she became a fan favorite? I wouldn't put it past him. I completely forgot until the GOAT episode that we saw his rollerblading there first. And again, as people who actually know him, we can very much attest to the fact that he frequents the roller skating rink.
Yes.
That is
not now, COVID times. Now he frequents parking lots.
Now he frequents parking lots, but before
he's all
COVID,
over Venice Beach. I've seen his
all over Venice
Instagram
Beach.
stories.
But beforehand, he loved to do the roller skating get-togethers. That's his go-to.
God. Fascinating.
I mean, you have that combined with like anyone interacting with this small child sister of Nick's, like that's going to make you look good as well.
Yeah.
Raven definitely, for me, solidified herself in the like colorful narrator role of this season. She's always using these metaphors. I believe at one point she's like, Jasmine is like, if she were a vegetable, she'd be a turnip because she's turned all the way up. And she like says it in this cute accent. Excellent.
Yes.
Excellent for screen time.
Yes. The cute accent and the puns, I recall.
Yeah. And then at this cocktail party, you focus on the rivalry between Corinne and Taylor. Like you were saying, it's a huge part of the GOAT episode. And you have the infamous low emotional intelligence accusation. I loved this rivalry. I think that they both played it perfectly. I mean, Taylor doesn't get that far, but she's one of the most memorable people of this season to me. Mm-hmm. And all the other players are getting pissed that Nick keeps Corinne, and it's making him look bad, but he doesn't really have a choice.
Mm-hmm. It's true.
I think one of the biggest moments is watching this GOAT episode, and now actually like knowing Taylor, but specifically watching this GOAT episode, was one of the best examples of if you don't believe in producer play, music play involved, it's like, come on, because you see Taylor is clearly painted out to be this villain. And then when you rewatch this GOAT episode where they're not attempting to make her that and they don't have the ominous music behind her all the time, you just hear the actual conversation for what it is. And then you see Taylor sit down with Chris Harrison and talk now, and then Corinne sit down with Chris Harrison and talk now. And you're like, wow.
You know what? I will say I still maintain I was still very love Taylor now. Still super irritated by that whole dynamic with her and Corinne. I found it really irritating that Taylor throughout that season was like taking the bait of Corinne's very obviously performativeness. And that still bothered me watching it back. And but that's just my personal
guys are building
opinion.
a pretty good rivalry right here.
I mean, that's what we attempt to do every episode.
You're going a 2-on-1.
But that's just I felt like, Corinne was so obviously performative. I felt like, why are you playing into this and feeding her fire consistently? And then also I was sort of bothered too, like Corinne said in one of these, like, why are you treating me like I'm stupid? And that also bothered me with the dynamic with Taylor, because Taylor was treating her like she was inferior in intelligence, and that bothered me.
But if the producers are constantly putting the two of them in rooms together,
I've been there, is all I'm saying. That's all I'm gonna say.
Well,
all right.
Well, Taylor definitely.
But I love Taylor now. I'm talking specifically about that scenario though, but
Taylor definitely had her comeback though in this GOAT episode, because we do have to pause to talk about this, and we have to let you both know because you're gonna love this. So when
so excited.
Chris Harrison sits down first with Taylor.
First of all, it's so bizarre that they included this to me.
This is why I need to hear their analysis of this, because this is
I was perplexed by it.
Okay.
Like, it makes sense with all the Rachel stuff, but with Taylor and what in the specific topic that she is really diving into was bizarre considering the nature of the show to me.
Yes. So she gets cut in the GOAT episode. Chris Harrison dials her in, and immediately, you can tell that Taylor is begrudgingly there to a certain extent, because Chris Harrison right away says, "Oh, it's so good to see you." And Taylor just goes, "Hi." Which is one of my most favorite moments. So and then Chris Harrison begins to ask her, I have the full conversation written down. So she then starts to talk about, he asks her how she's been doing in her current life. She then starts to say that she's really found a passion talking about sex, and she thinks that she's going to go back to school to become a sexologist. Chris Harrison looks completely thrown off, dead silent, of course. And then she starts saying that she starts talking about non-monogamy, and they are including this.
What?
Yes. I'm chanting.
Not only mentioning it.
No, I am chanting at the screen. Okay. And she says, what I've come to learn is I've started to participate in different types of non-monogamous relationships. And all I can say is that love does not have to present itself in this fairy tale, heterosexual, monogamous dynamic. It can present itself in many different ways. If you're hot, you're hot. Trans people are hot. Non-binary people are hot. Men are hot. Women are hot. It's a full spectrum of attractiveness. Chris Harrison then looks stunned, ignores what she said, of course, and then goes, well, are you seeing anyone? And Taylor says, well, no, but that's what vibrators are for, right?
Uh-huh.
Incredible.
Interesting.
Yeah,
They're like fucking with DLH. We were just talking about this last night about how the show is basically demonstrating a poly relationship while saying that only monogamy is the way to go.
Absolutely.
Interesting.
It was probably my most favorite GOAT moment because it was just so anti so many of the fundamentals of this show. And
so
Taylor,
like, are they trying to demonstrate like some sort of like self-awareness or like, or like diversity without actually including more diverse aspects of relationships? I don't know. I really didn't understand why.
It seems to me like they're just doing it out of two reasons. One, they want Taylor on camera because she's not white, and they want to be like, look, we're trying to up at least the appearance that we are more diverse, et cetera, et cetera. And then she says something that can potentially be sensational. That might be a clip that goes around the internet, you know, and they're like, fuck it, throw that in. Let's put it in. I don't know that it has like, I can't imagine the producers are smart enough to be using that in any way that's like hinting at where the series might go or what they have in store for the future. I think it's just like, yeah, cool. She said something that Chris Harrison like doesn't get. It could be a funny moment. It could be whatever. But,
well, also,
yeah, like
I kind of imagine if they like cut it out, I could see Taylor being like, this is what I talked about, you know, and like it wasn't included. And like, once again, you know, maybe it's like cover their asses.
Whatever it was so, I was just so shocked that they kept it in. And I was also just so hyped that fucking Taylor Nolan, the queen, they made her out, they painted her in this certain light, and she comes in swinging and is just like, hey, by the way, ABC, I'm going to talk about non-monogamy. I'm going to talk about transgender. And she's just dropping, I'm going to bring up vibrators. And it was just one of these, like, I mean, fantastic.
Yeah, that's great.
I mean, I can't believe they even said trans in a Bachelor program.
Right?
That's wild in itself.
We've
talked about how it would be a hilarious experimental strategy if the two finalists agree that they're just going to be like, oh, we've both just decided to continue dating the lead at the end of it. It's going to be a throuple. I would love to see that.
I would love to see the lead's reaction to it if it was proposed. But if you went into the finals, if you were one of the two finalists and you proposed this to the other finalists, and it doesn't even have to be real, just say like, yes, we're going to have to make out on camera a couple of times. But like what we're going to present is the idea that you and I have fallen in love with each other as well. And we are going to go to the lead and say, hey, let's do this. This is how we want to proceed. Are you in or not? Then it is on the lead. And if the lead blows that up, you're both victimized. And one of you is definitely the Bachelorette, maybe both.
Wow. What do you think the
Just
audience...
some food for thought.
How do you think the audience would react?
Because I know they've toyed with like, you know, the women falling in love with each other and leaving. Because like we saw that in, I believe it was The Bachelor Korea or something like that. There was two women.
Yeah, Vietnam, they had that.
Vietnam, okay. Two women who left to be in a relationship with each
other.
But yeah, never the leads. They're like, you know, the final.
How do you think the audience would react to this being a very conservative audience?
It would be one of the most watched episodes of all time. That's
Absolutely.
For sure.
You don't think that people would be like, no, we're not even going to participate?
Absolutely not. Yeah. Curiosity would be so overwhelming.
And it would also be something that I think you could keep it a secret. So it wouldn't be like Reality Steve wouldn't be able to spoil that one because it doesn't fuck with the structure of the game. He's only looking for like who comes back home and is like on their Instagram accounts again. Then he knows they've been eliminated. But if the two finalists are going down to the two finalists, all he would know is like, well, these are the two finalists. One of them wins. that twist in the end, I don't think you could spoil really. So the average viewing audience would not see that coming at all. So you'd just be watching a regular season of The Bachelor, then you'd be like, holy shit, what in the hell is going on? And
unless, of course, those two were spotted out together or whatever, or some sort of Instagram thing.
I don't know. I think people would be whatever. Pase Case and I have talked about this a lot too. What is the audience of The Bachelor? Is it a 50-50 split of people who are liberal and just accept all the conservative horrible shit in the show? Or is it more like a 70-30 conservative? We don't know. But I think there would be a significant enough percentage of the audience that would be on board for something like that.
At the very least, even if they don't agree with it, I think they would just be on board for television, you know? People watch things all the time that they don't agree with on both sides. Obviously, there's plenty of people who watch The Bachelor who don't agree with the basic structure of the show.
Very true. Bachelor Clues and Pase Case just giving us food for thought continually. Now this is going to be what I'm thinking about all day.
I like it.
Sorry.
Thank you.
There's a huge Christian audience, but they still make it a huge point that PP and Hannah fucked 4 times in the windmill, you know, like
wiser words have never been spoken.
To hold these 2 things at once.
Very true. It's very true.
So back to next season.
Yes.
In week 4, they go to New Orleans, and we get Rachel goes on the first one-on-one, and it's a standard win in Rome. They're just kind of going around doing whatever stuff they do in New Orleans. We get this beautiful footage of Nick Viall sloppily eating beignets with powdered sugar all over his face. And of course, at the end of it, she gets her one-on-one rose. And then we go to the group date that week. It is a haunted house.
I can never forget this date. This one is like seared in my memory for some reason.
I'll tell you why it's seared into mine. It's the most insulting fucking thing that happened to the viewing audience, to the players, to Nick Viall, to everyone involved. They ask us as an audience to believe that this house is haunted. They then force the players to pretend to believe that there are ghosts chasing them through the fucking hallways like it's a poltergeist movie. It's insane to me that they did this. And we're all just watching it like, I guess the house is haunted. Like, are they really scared of ghosts? It's crazy to me. But Danielle Maltby gets the group date rose in the haunted house. She does enough there to, I guess, allay his fears of the undead. And then we get a 2-on-1 date at the end. And they've kind of beefed this up to be like, who's it going to be? Who's it going to be? But we already know they've built this rivalry between Taylor and Corinne. It's going to be them. It is them. And 2-on-1s always take place in some kind of a hostile environment.
In the
Arctic
swamp.
tundra. Desert. This one is in the swamp. We get B-roll of fucking alligators swimming around and shit, crocodiles, whatever. And you're just like, come on. They get off this boat, and inexplicably, there's a woman doing tarot card readings just sitting at a table in the swamp. So they all go get their tarot cards read. And
we stumbled upon this woman.
Yeah, exactly. And Taylor, of course, is like, you know, she thinks she's outsmarting Corinne, but what she doesn't know is at this point, Corinne is the entire show. She is the comedy and the drama. The producers have already decided who's winning this, and Taylor gets dismissed, and Corinne gets the date that night, and they leave Taylor in the swamp to die.
Alone in the bayou. By the way, this is something so fantastic. We saw it when we watched the GOAT episode for Allie's season.
Yes.
Of like when they left Casey appearing to be on like Polar Bear Island. Like they pan out with the helicopter, and there's no one appearing to be there for miles, and he's standing alone on a glacier.
Yes.
This always blows my mind.
I
like
love
the
that.
amount of effort they put into getting this shot to make it look like this person is just like they're literally leaving them there forever.
And this was pre-drone era too, to get some of those shots. Now they can just use a drone. It's no big deal. But back then they had to fucking get somebody in a helicopter, fly up to the top of the goddamn clouds,
clear
to get
everyone
that shot
out for
of this
300
person just
yards.
Like, what the hell? It's crazy.
That's exactly what I was thinking when we were watching it. I was like, this is pre-drone. This is pre-drone. And here he is on an iceberg, no one for miles.
They stuck all the producers in the helicopter or in the snow or something so you can't see anyone.
And then they got to loot back around, pick him up, you know, by a fucking rope or whatever they're going to.
Also, imagine just getting dumped and they're like, you stand right there. Okay, all right, everyone clear out. Stand there. We're going to get this shot. Just stand.
And you know, there's got to be a brief moment, some little glimmer in your mind that in that moment you're standing on the glacier, the helicopter, you can't even see it. It's a fucking dot in the sky. And you have to be thinking to yourself, maybe they are going to leave me here. Maybe this is how I die. That thought has to go through your fucking mind. It has to at least once.
I want to see them combine it with Naked and Afraid, and then they follow that person as they try to get back to civilization after they're dumped.
No, that is a show. That is a show.
Have you guys seen Nathan For You? Do you guys watch Nathan For You? Have you seen the one where he does the where he pretends to be the guy and he leaves him in a trailer in the desert with like a bunch of water and food so he can impersonate him for a week? Oh wow! You gotta watch this one.
Oh god!
Wait,
anyway.
Is this the one where he's walking on the tightrope?
Yes.
Is that the one where he makes him a hero?
Yes, he makes the whole.
He does one where he has the Bachelor.
I know
also.
the hunk.
The hunk, yeah.
So incredible. Anyway, sorry, I digress.
I fucking love that show.
But he literally left someone in the desert in a trailer with like food and water for a week and like left him there. Anyway. Great other kind of reality show.
Back to Nick Viall's iconic GOAT season. We're in week 5. They travel to St. Thomas. It's not technically international, but this is traditionally the international round. And Christine, it's the what?
Oh, the pigs in the water. This is like seared in my memory.
Yes.
Yeah. As well. A lot of this season is.
Yeah, it seems like a lot is seared in your memory.
This season, I think, made a huge
moments.
impression on me. Yeah.
Is it the one that you studied for your own season?
I think it was one of the seasons that I really watched. Like, I think all the other seasons I'd kind of like been on my phone. I would sort of watch, here and there. And I usually would like tune out I wouldn't watch the last 3 or 4 episodes because I would get bored. But this season and Rachel's season, I like watched all the way through and like actually paid attention to the episode. So that's probably why I remember it so clearly. It was probably because of Corinne.
Well, do you remember this? Christina's one-on-one. They do a seaplane tour of the island, and then she plays one of the most powerful PTCs we've ever seen in the history of our beloved game.
Oh.
Do you remember what this was?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes. And in fact, they did review this on the GOAT episode. They showed her whole conversation with Nick, and then Chris Harrison actually interviewed her as well and extended the invite to her for a future Bachelor in Paradise.
Oh, God.
What?
Wow.
Has she not been through enough?
To me, this PTC, this is the PTC that launched 1,000 Bachelor in Paradise invites because it's so strong. Oh. She tells Nick that she grew up in a food poor household in Russia. And one day when she was 5 or 6, she broke her alcoholic mother's rule of not eating anything, but she ate a tube of lipstick and her mom kicks her out. She joins an orphanage and then is eventually adopted by an American family at age 12. She's thinking that she's finally escaping Putin's reach by coming to America and gets the rose before she's even finished speaking.
Yeah, that was insane. That one was insane.
I'll never forget it.
Yeah, because when you contrast it with...
The group date of this week is...
Oh, no, I was just saying when you contrast it with people's...
When you contrast it with what?
People's stories of, no offense to anyone's horrible divorce stories, but when you have someone talking about their parents' divorce and then you talk about someone starving and eating a tube of lipstick as a child and then like in, Mother Russia, it's like insane in comparison.
Or a bumper car phobia.
Yeah.
A bumper car phobia.
Sweet Annalise.
I know.
Yes.
Yeah. They didn't recreate this one with a montage like that.
She also saved it to really late in the season too. Like, I guess she didn't get much of an opportunity before, but it sort of came in.
She definitely got maximum value out of it.
This is how she got top 6.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, broads, we are about to preach from the mountaintops at all of you about how precious this one is, because since our episode with Jessica Lanyadoo, it was confirmed that right now this is an essential in our homes, and multiple of them at that, okay? So there is nothing I want in my home less right now, less than germs from the outside, for hopefully obvious reasons. But no matter what precautions we all take, it is inevitable. We carry pollutants on our body and clothing. Germs are everywhere. Not to scare anyone, but it's just the truth, which is why you'll find air purifiers in every room of my house right now. And by the way, also with the California fires going on, it's an absolute necessity. And it's not just any air purifier. There's only one brand I trust, and that brand is Molekule. Molekule air purifiers can handle the widest range of air pollutants compared to other air purifiers on the market. Things like viruses, bacteria, molds, airborne chemicals, and so many other pollutants.
And here's what sets Molekule apart. They don't just collect the pollutants to sit on top of the filter and get recycled into the air in your house. Molekule destroys them completely. And for us as a family, I can't tell you how much peace of mind I get knowing that the air my babies breathe in is as pure as it can get. I mean, we live outside of LA, barely outside of it. The air is disgusting here.
Yeah, it's
like 24/7, 365 days a year, much less when there's fires going on in the state. But yeah, it's a valley.
When you drive,
which means it collects all of the disgusting air.
When you drive and then you dip into that and you just see a line of brown going into the city, you're just like, oh, like,
yeah, I know there's mountains surrounding the city. I can't see them though because everything's so polluted. Anyway.
Well, it's just Molekule just fixes it all. And if you think about those big clunky white towers, when you think about air purifiers, think again, because Molekule's products are stunning.
Sexy.
They feature minimalist design that's easily fit into any room's design. We're talking chic air, baby. Okay, chic air.
Love it.
And I know how poor, like we're saying, the air quality can be outside. Thank you, Los Angeles. But this blew my mind. Did you know that air indoors can be up to 5 times more polluted than the air, or air indoors can be up to 5 times more polluted than the air outdoors? Yes. So once I put Molekule air purifiers throughout my house, I instantly felt like I was breathing easier and also way less allergy flare-ups, which is a huge issue for me. Huge issue. I had no idea how much the air in my house was affecting me, and I'm so grateful to have Molekule.
For 10% off your first air purifier order, you can visit molekule.com and enter code CHATTY at checkout. That's MOLEKULE.com. Enter code CHATTY at checkout, and you're going to get 10% off your first order.
The group date of this week, I don't know if you'll remember, but it's also iconic. It's the Nightmare Beach Volleyball group date.
Yep.
The women play cornhole and volleyball, and they pound shots, and pretty quickly everyone starts getting pissed and quits all the games and starts crying. They're fed up having to compete for time, which is literally the premise of this whole show. But usually on group dates, it's not that uncommon for like 1 or 2 of the players to reject the date and start crying, but it's very unusual to see this level of tears, everyone breaking down, and Nick can't stop them from having nervous breakdowns. He tries his little drunk dinosaur dance, and even that special charm can't fix it.
It's almost like anarchy. I wonder if the producers expected that for like literally everyone to collapse and crumble.
I expected it. This is what their primary goal is. They want to have people having nervous breakdowns on camera. That's the whole point of their job. Yes, as many people as possible. As long as they get the final shot in the end of a show of a guy on one knee with a ring box from Neil Lane, everything leading up to that is as much destruction as they can possibly muster. We've been watching old seasons for another project that we're working on.
On 2 times speed, we are watching every episode of The Bachelor, all 24 seasons.
Are you actually watching on 2 times speed?
Yeah,
that's so
we
smart.
have to catalog things. Yeah. We have a deadline that we have to fucking meet. So one of the things that we've noticed though is when Dark Lord Harrison will cut out to commercial, the kind of voiceover that they use in the final little bumpers, the things he's trying to tease you with are never like, find who falls in love, come back to see how it all works out for these 2 great people. It's come back to see whose heart gets broken. Or for hometowns, it's going to be a boyfriend's nightmare times 4. These are the literal words he's using. So even how they're promoting the material to the audience.
In multiple seasons.
Yeah, multiple seasons. So they're really promoting.
The boyfriend's nightmare one?
Yeah. For hometowns.
First of all, rude, Chris Harrison. Okay.
Sure.
Rude.
But the promotion of emotional trauma as the reason that you're watching has been in place in this game for a long, long time. And we all know from various kind of behind the scenes expose articles, books that have been written, especially in those early seasons, producers were paid bonuses if they could get people to cry. Producers would lock people in limos and drive around the fucking 405 for 4 hours until they cried. This is what they're trained to do. That's the job of a producer.
I am speechless.
Back on the group date, Lindsay plays a make me stay to Nick. She floats the possibility of her leaving the game. it's gotten that bad. But Raven gets the group date rose. We don't even see it due to the high level of drama. This is also where Jasmine G threatens to choke Nick. It's a whole mess. And we then get a second group date, which is a bizarre 2-on-1. It's D'Lo versus Whitney. Whitney, we haven't heard speak all season. They didn't even build a rivalry between them, but sometimes due to the math, they have to stick random players together. And Nick dumps Whitney. They escape. He and D'Lo escape in a chopper. They leave Whitney in their chopper dust. We get that shot of her alone on the beach, desolate. D'Lo continues this one-on-one, and Nick tells her he wants his relationship to be adventurous and raw, which is, I mean, it's something I say on every one of my third dates with a human person. Definitely.
On the menu, adventurous and raw.
That's great. D'Lo raises her love level to love level 3. She says, "I'm falling in love with you." This, it turns out, is either too adventurous or too raw for Nick. He dumps her on the spot. And instead of a cocktail party that night, Nick storms into the women's hotel room sobbing. I don't know if I could do this. He sets up this cliffhanger. This happens almost every season where the lead is questioning the process, but it's completely fake. I think they just didn't want to end this episode on the most boring 2-on-1 in the history of 2-on-1.
And then we come to week 6. This is the final week of regular season play before hometowns, which is the first round of playoffs. They're still in St. Thomas. Vanessa gets the first one-on-one. They go snorkeling. Then at dinner, she pulls off a huge move, raises her love level to love level 3 by saying, "I'm falling in love with you." She seals this move with a kiss, which is exactly the textbook play you want to do. But then Nick cools her jets by saying, well, he's got to take it slow. And this is not the answer she wanted to hear. And we find out there is no rose to be given on this one-on-one. Then we have a 3-on-1. This is Corinne, Raven, and Christina. And again, it mirrors the 2-on-1 by being presented to us in a hostile environment where they force these people to literally go swimming with fucking sharks. Literally. Get in the ocean, here's some sharks. And Christina,
by the way, this is a lot of like, is this abnormal for a season? I feel like it is to have 2 2-on-1s and 1 3-on-1.
Yeah, they, especially in recent seasons, they've kind of almost done away with the 2-on-1. You might see like PP season had 1 3-on-1, but it gets forced into these weird math problems where the producers are like, well, fuck, there's these people and this has happened and now we need to have this many people.
I think Colton's season was similar, right? Was there a 2-on-1 on Colton's season?
I don't think
there was. I think there was the 3-on-1.
I think so. There was a
or like
people,
a 4.
There were numerous people who left voluntarily during Colton's season. God bless.
Right.
So I don't think that they needed to necessarily do that. But I mean, just a 3-on-1 to the Sharks, just obviously a week after Sweet Christina gave us the most devastating story I've ever heard in our lives. They throw her into a pool full of live sharks. So that's cool.
But she handles it well.
Just like Russia all over again.
Yeah. But she handles it very well. She pulls off an injury, fear, illness play here and gets out of the water. She's like, fuck this. I am not doing this. And it forces Nick to emerge and console her. So it works like a charm. But Raven actually pulls off the best play of this 3-on-1 when she plays her PTC. Her dad had lung cancer, and she, of course, is rewarded with the group date rose. And another notable moment sees Corinne reprising her catchphrase, "Make Corinne great again." So she can say this all she wants in her confessional videos, in her group dates, whatever. The producers are choosing to put it in the show again to make it a piece of her identity and therefore a piece of the season's identity, a piece of the show's identity. And I know this may seem frivolous, like it was just a joke or whatever, but these producers are making very sure the only political idea they are putting forth is the slogan of Donald Trump. That is in this season. It's right there in front of your fucking face. And we will get to it. More of it shows up later, in fact. So
also the reinforcement consistently of like her social status and wealth status of her family is also brought up over and over again with the mention of the nanny.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And when there was on Nick and throws $4,000 at him.
Yes.
Yeah. This is something that is kind of like a tradition of the Bachelor franchise. In season 3, The Bachelor was a guy named Andrew Firestone, who was the heir to the Firestone tire fortune. And all of their promos, Chris Harrison is saying like, we've got a real millionaire in opposition to the show Joe Millionaire, which was airing at the same time. So they were presenting themselves as, we have the real opulence. We have the real upper class, first tier American family wealth on our show.
Wow.
And that's just been something that has been presented to all Bachelor audiences throughout history as like a beneficial element of The Bachelor, is that he is from a wealthy family. And it's no different here in this season. But then Danielle Maltby gets a one-on-one date, and these late regular season one-on-ones are not always good. In fact, in this case, it is an execution. She ups her love level to 1, and it is simply too late. There are other players with higher love levels. She has kind of made it through meandering with the producer's help to this point, but she gets sent home. And then later, having had 0 one-on-ones this entire time, Corinne takes matters into her own hands and pulls off a knock-knock, which is it's a producer orchestrated thing that a player can do outside the context of a group date, 1-on-1, 2-on-1. They can force a kind of little mini 1-on-1 date by having the producers usher them to the lead's hotel room or wherever they may be away from the other players. And she does that here, and she shows up and she says she knows how to turn on the sex charm, in quotes. And her plan here is to get Nick to have sex with her prior to fantasy suites. But he's already done this. He knows the fallout from this. And so he says, no thanks, but thanks for the effort. And he reacts to it in a way that is like, she's dejected, but it was a good play because Nick sees the value of it and again sees himself in her.
Yeah, he did a knock-knock on Andy's season.
Yes. Oh, she is his protege.
Absolutely. And then the final one-on-one is given to Rachel. They have a beer at a local bar. Nick brings up the race question. Rachel says it's not a big deal. There's all kinds of people in her family. Then she returns to the hotel without an evening portion of this one-on-one, which is, I don't think I've ever seen that. There is no dinner. They just go have a beer. She says, there are white people in my family too. Don't feel bad about it. And then comes back to the hotel room saying, it was great. I don't feel slighted at all. I got enough time. This to me is pretty clear evidence that she was scripted to make this run and that she may even know about it at this point. Because to not get that dinner part, I have to imagine a player who's really in the game or even has feelings for Nick at this point would be tripping about that.
Yeah.
You know,
of course.
She has no reaction whatsoever. So there are 5 players left. Nick decides to forego the rose ceremony. He goes back to their hotel room and he pulls Christina aside out into the hallway where he grants her the respect of a private execution, not forcing her to stand in a rose ceremony again. And she gives a good exit speech that conveys she didn't get the chance she thinks she deserves, which sets her up for her subsequent really historic runs on Bachelor in Paradise. And then Nick gives out 4 roses outside of a rose ceremony, 1 to each of the remaining players. And this is historic because Rachel gets one of them. She has broken the brown ceiling here. She is the first Black player in history to do this.
In history.
And then we get to hometowns. There have been other players of color who have gotten to hometowns, but she's the first Black player. Oh. And I think Eric Bigger does it in her season as well. But we have the hometowns this week. It's not only where the players are going to introduce Nick Viall to their families, but the Bachelor actually does have to perform some gameplay here himself. He has to get the official blessings from each of the 4 fathers and to ask for their daughter's hand in marriage. And just so you guys know, Nick Viall has one of the highest parental blessing counts in the history of our beloved game at 5 blessings.
Oh, I believe it. We're
not sure. We think Brad Womack might be up there, but he has 5 total blessings.
Wow.
Incredible.
It's a lot of blessings.
We are ourselves truly blessed this week as we get to see Nick play one last time. It's just like when Jordan played a few more seasons with the Washington Wizards at the end of his career. The dads, they don't know what they're up against. The first hometown is Ravens. It's in Hoxie, Arkansas. It's a what I do for fun day date. They go ATVing in the mud. They make out in a literal swamp, and they climb on some grain bins. where a cop comes up to them, questioning their activities. This turns out to be an early meeting of the family, though. It's just Raven's brother. It's 2016, and cop harassment is played here as a fun joke. And they meet the rest of Raven's family. They reprise Raven's parental PTC that Raven's dad is finally cancer-free. And Viall secures his first blessing of the season. The second hometown is Rachel Lindsay's in Dallas, Texas. It's the first Black hometown ever. Truly historic. The day portion is religious. She takes Nick to her Black church. Nick is so chill about all of it, though. He says the phrase, "Amen is amen," you know? I love that. Rachel,
oh my God.
She sums up the meeting of her family. She says, you don't need to have black skin, but you have to have thick skin. It is a perfect audition for her bachelorette run. Her white brother-in-law says that phrase about, I noticed you are a white. They talk about race, but Rachel's dad is not here. Nick does not secure the blessing. Third hometown is Corinne's in Miami. The day portion is a what I do for fun, the shopping. She constructs her own pretty woman date by trying on clothes with Nick,
yes.
buying him the $3,400 of merchandise.
Yes.
And at lunch, Corinne raises her love level to love level 4. She says, I love you. And then they meet her family. It's a family business. They talk about their olive business, and Corinne's dad grills Nick on how he's going to support Corinne. We meet Raquel. And Nick traverses this expertly, though, and he secures his second blessing. Final hometown is Vanessa's in Montreal, Canada. The day date is a take your bachelor to work day where they visit her special needs kids school. She forces her students to make yet another art piece for Nick. And then the meeting of the family portion is a traditional family. Nick meets 100 people in Vanessa's mom's family. Then they go to the dad's. He extracts a blessing from the dad. Third total blessing secured. Vanessa has an opportunity to up her love level here at the Auto Zone, which is one of the most traditional love level 4 locations. This is right next to the car as Nick's getting in at the end. But she feels secure in her placement and saves it for later. Excellent move, Vanessa. And at the cocktail party, Nick finally gets permission from the producers to let go of Corinne. And we mourn her absence the rest of the season.
Yeah, it was never the same.
It truly wasn't. It truly
And
wasn't.
No.
Especially missing the cheese pasta, which I will say, to add in a little GOAT moment, is that Chris Harrison then does interview Corinne. So
I didn't watch this part.
He interviews Corinne. So beforehand, when he was interviewing Taylor, he asked her, would you ever be okay, having a conversation, breaking bread with Corinne, basically. Taylor says, I don't know if you recall, but like she wouldn't apologize to me on the Women Tell All when everyone was cheering for her to do it. I would love an apology. I don't think I'm going to get one, but she's like, if it happens, I'm fine breaking bread, whatever. Now, on the other hand, when Chris Harrison interviews Corinne, we have a very stark difference from the I am going to be a sexologist. Let's talk about non-monogamy. Corinne is, how should I put this? She is in her full Corinne. She is talking about how she would never, she's a lady, but like absolutely not buy forever Taylor. I found my man's. I have figured out how to make cheese pasta. I'm living my best life. There's luxury, but there's luxury behind her. It is a stark difference. God. It is a stark contrast between Taylor and Corinne's conversation with Chris Harrison.
That makes sense. You doubled down. Just keep doubling down.
Oh, she doubled down, and we saw the exact same Corinne that we were just left off with. Exact same. Just a little more filler.
Jesus Christ.
She's, side note, I have to say she's so fun to hang out with in person. She's actually really nice.
I bet.
And pretty smart, but yeah.
It is a stark contrast.
No big deal. You're part of the Corinne show.
Yeah. It's really sad to me. I was really sad after watching the season that I felt like she didn't, for whatever reason, take advantage of the opportunity to weaponize her like social media following and like really continue her personality in its fullness on her Instagram.
It was like just a little before that. Like the Nick Viall season wasn't quite like where we are now, you know?
It really
I feel
took
like
off
it didn't.
With Colton's season, I think is when it really achieved like celeb status in terms of like following.
That's certainly when you started to see people coming off of BIP with over 1 million followers. That had not happened until that crew of players moved into Bachelor in Paradise season 5.
Much
That's when
less
it really
just
was like,
the
holy
Bachelor
shit.
season. Like with Pete's, people are coming off with, how many did Maddie come off with? Like almost
I think
2
she's at
million
1.8.
followers.
Last count.
Insane.
Wild.
Yeah.
Corinne should have started a podcast that airs the night that this comes out.
Yeah.
Very true. Maybe we're going to see that.
Seems a
Yeah,
little
maybe it
late in the
will.
game.
Yeah, who knows what she'll do. Back to next season, we are now at week 8. This is, of course, our favorite round of the game, Fantasy Suites. The ritualistic sexual ceremony will take place in the snow-covered majesty of Finland on next season. And just to remind you again, some of the national context we mentioned in the beginning of this, we are at this point less than 1 week away from the 2016 presidential election as Fantasy Suites are starting, as people are flying in to have sex with Nick Viall. So Raven is granted the honor of first encounter. This comes with it some strategical advantage. The first person to have a fantasy suite can kind of set the tone for the others. Certainly that person is going to be in the lead's mind as they continue to have sex with these other people. There is a more kind of comparative power in whatever your performance is during your fantasy suite. So after a helicopter ride and a few rounds of darts at a local bar, they proceed to the night portion of the fantasy suite where Raven confides to sweet Nicki that she's never had an orgasm. And this is a version of a PVC, personal virginity card. They always have something like this pretty much on every season. You're either an outright like pure 100% virgin, or you're a born again virgin, or you've never had an orgasm. Some kind of sexual first is meant to be taking place potentially in the fantasy suite. And of course, Nick's eyes light up when he hears this. Finally, this is a challenge. This is a game he can play, and he is very willing to do so. So ultimately, Raven issues a love level raise to the final level. I love you, love level 4. The fantasy suite card is produced. The golden Harry Potter key is produced, and they are off to engage in the show sanctioned act of sex. Now, the next morning, something very interesting happens. We are treated to what is about a 1 and 14-second long video montage of Raven dancing through the snow, skipping around this Finnish town, riding in a sled, playing with a local dog, all in supposed celebration of Nick Viall giving her her first orgasm.
Although sex did not occur.
Exactly. Yeah. That's in almost all these fantasy suites. We have now evidence that nothing actually happened. And so all of this is a producer manipulation, is a trick they're playing on us, the audience. It is a trick they have forced Raven to engage in. I mean, imagine being a Raven. You wake up the next day from the fantasy suite and the producers come in and they're like, okay, we're going to need you to just start skipping around in the snow, go play with this dog, ride this sled down the hill, act like you had an orgasm. We need about 30 minutes of B-roll of that so we can cut it into a 1-minute-long package. They force her to do this, and she does it. So
I completely forgot. I completely forgot about all of this.
Are you serious?
I completely forgot that no, I forgot about, like, I remembered the orgasm. I remembered the orgasm thing, but I can't believe that I somehow forgot that Nick has now come out and said that there was no sex in the fantasy suite. So
yeah.
But of course, in the GOAT episode, please, they would have included that in any other GOAT episode. It was like that big moment, whatever. Of course, they did not include it in the GOAT episode because now the truth has been revealed, and they would never want to make one of their main players, like Raven, look like she was not being honest about something. Yeah.
Exactly.
It was so funny. It was like that 500 Days of Summer montage where he's like doing the "You Make My Dreams Come True," you know? It's like, it was the exact same thing. It was crazy.
Holy shit.
Oh my God.
Then we
probably
get to the
modeled
second
after this.
Probably.
Then we get to the second fantasy suite. It is Rachel. So imagine being Rachel in this historic moment. She's the first Black player to ever reach this level of the playoffs, Fantasy Suite round. And we know from an interview that she did on Juliet Littman's Bachelor Party podcast from January 29th, 2018, that she is flying into Finland on fucking election day.
Yeah.
She gets on that plane. Who's going to win? She lands. Donald Trump is the president of the United States of America. So at dinner, she raises her love level to 3. I'm falling in love with you. He completes this lie mandated by the producers. I'm falling for you too. He says the key and card are presented. They retreat to the fantasy suite. And the next morning again, we see shots of them snuggling up. We are made to believe that they had sex. But we know from that same interview that Rachel was so traumatized by the news Donald Trump was president that she just started drinking and was drunk all day. And by the time they got to fantasy suites, she just passed out. There was no sex had. I can't imagine what anyone was going through at that time. Were they able to vote? Did the producers allow them to do that? How cut off from the outside world were they? She said that she saw on the TVs in the airport and on the airplane that Trump had won. So once you're in the Bachelor bubble, once you're in the production, you're not allowed to watch TV. You're not allowed to get any of that fucking news. So I have no idea what that would be like for anyone, let alone Rachel Lindsay. Horribly traumatic, I can only assume.
Well, the Vegas shooting, I don't know, did I talk about this last time? The Vegas shooting happened when we were on our season, and we were in, every once in a while you have TVs in your room and stuff, so you can kind of watch the news. And also, you know, you're friends with the producers, so they'll be like, oh yeah, this happened. Like I remember Kylie Jenner got pregnant and the producer was like, oh my God, Kylie Jenner is pregnant. You know,
That broke
the
the
real
news.
news. Holy shit, no way.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. I was like, is this from TMZ? Like, where are you getting this info? Come on. I
Who's your source?
Yeah, tell us. Where are you reading this? Tell me more. But yeah, the Vegas shooting happened when we were in Tahoe and we had no TV, not really even any cell service. And so producers cut all cameras, cut everything, and then sat us all down and told us what happened. And that was pretty surreal and pretty bizarre, especially considering when you normally find out about these kind of things, you're normally scrolling through your phone and you just kind of keep scrolling and you're like, oh, wow, that's really sad. And you talk about it with some people. But it was a very surreal experience to have someone sit you down and say this many people were murdered and this happened and this happened. It was like the most emotional I've ever felt, like learning about a national event like that. It was bizarre where everyone was crying. And I don't think I've ever had that, like that much of a reaction in any other kind of
Well, especially because you're so cut off from everything. Like you don't know what's happening in the world. And then the first news you get about the world is horrible tragedy. So on a deep kind of sub-psychological level, you're experiencing this shift in like, oh my God, the world is ending.
Yeah.
Like what the fuck is going on out there? And to have something like Donald Trump is now president, that really is like catastrophic in a way that's like the world truly is ending, at least America as we know it. So anyway, fantasy suite number 3.
2020.
Oh, Jesus. But yeah, Vanessa gets the next fantasy suite.
Which is another reason why I can't wait to see how Tayshia's season plays out.
So true.
Having COVID going on. I mean, the producers have to be giving updates because you're like, what's the death toll going to be like once I'm out of this filming?
But wait a second. Will Matt James be filming The Bachelor when
Yes. Matt James's season shoots during the next election. And although I think it's going to be pushed back a little bit, like for Nick's season, Fantasy Suites coincided literally with the election.
Yeah.
I think Matt James's will be a little earlier because I think they're pushing his season to a later shoot date. So I think it'll probably be, the election will be around like week 4 or 5 maybe. But yeah, it's definitely happening.
And presumably they'll be in the country though. So I wonder if they will be allowed to vote.
Who knows? It's weird. I mean,
they might do some of that that fake mail-in ballot. Get some of those fake votes in.
Oh yeah, some voter fraud.
I'm curious to see if it's even like addressed. If there's any kind of political stuff that filters through into the show. If there's even a conversation about it.
Well, because and weren't you guys posting too that Chris Harrison is a Trumper?
I mean, we don't have exact evidence of that, but he certainly likes a bunch of Republican stuff on Instagram. To me, that means like it's likely, highly likely. That
I mean, I'm not going and liking political parties that
Tommy Laren's posts.
Yeah, I'm not going and hitting likes on those.
She's the only one. She's the only Republican that I do. Everybody else, no way. But hers, and she makes some good points.
Tommy.
She brings up some good things.
It's just Tommy. That's all.
Yeah,
just I
like her hair.
Love her hair. Whatever product she uses, fantastic. But
No,
and then
Matt,
Matt
he liked a bunch of Dan Crenshaw's posts. That's how we found out.
Yeah. And then same with Matt James, correct? Matt James is also a Republican.
It's a little different, I will say, to be I'm just gonna give him the benefit of doubt. It is different to be a registered Republican versus liking,
Donald Trump, of course.
Yeah, or I was just gonna say liking Dan Crenshaw's content.
Yeah, there are degrees of it, certainly. Crenshaw is a little more maybe libertarian-y in tone, but he's a Republican, like he is. I don't know. Look, I don't know what any of these people's personal politics are.
Democrats. But we followed Matt James's mom, and she was following the Trumps as well. So just some clues. Really? We don't know.
Yeah.
These are just breadcrumbs. These are just breadcrumbs. It's not confirmation. This is breadcrumbs.
Is his mom white or is it his dad?
His mom is white. I think he was raised just by his mom.
Oh, okay.
Anyways, my goodness.
Anyway, back to the third fantasy suite. It is Vanessa.
So much to process. It's so much to process. Please continue.
I know. They go on this day portion of their. They go on this day portion of their day where they repeatedly go out into an outdoor ice bath, followed by sprints back into a sauna. Hot, cold, just like their relationship has been this entire season. And at night, the discussion continues as they decide where they're going to live if they wind up together. And Nick utters this line, basically saying, "I'm not going to leave America because," in quotes, "I'm proud to be an American." The statement comes less than 24 hours after Donald Trump has been elected to end America as we know it and begin the authoritarian control of our country. So then Vanessa raises her love level to love level 4. Yeah. Please.
Do you think when the Civil War goes down that they're still going to be like finding resorts across America that haven't been touched by the carnage to film The Bachelor?
Absolutely. I think whatever is coming we're already seeing it. Like if you have enough money, you're completely insulated from it. And there are 2 separate Americas happening now. And it's like, it's not just rich and poor. It's like ultra rich and everybody else. And the cops are kind of the buffer zone in between that keep the ultra rich safe from everybody else, basically.
Yeah,
The
Nima
Bachelor will be
have
like
a militia outside of it protecting it for Matt.
Listen,
I can see that being a case.
We're gonna have the Bachelor will continue to air on television just like the Hunger Games. Okay, they still were able to watch things. The Bachelor will continue.
The mansion will go up in flames, literally, and they're gonna have to just find somewhere else.
How can you guarantee that, Becca? What are you saying?
Cut this.
You know the first thing that's going to go is the mansion. You just know that's going to happen.
Well, it almost went down. Was it last year or the year before?
Yeah.
It came so close.
It was a couple years ago.
You might call it foreshadowing.
The entire area around it was burned, but not a fucking shingle on that house was harmed. You tell me how that happens?
It's like when the Bible is the only thing in the house that remains.
Exactly. With an upside down cross on it. He has made a deal with the devil so that the franchise can go on forever. We know this is true. We have conclusive proof.
How is there not?
We found it on Dan Crenshaw's Instagram.
I was going to say, how is there not a QAnon theory like involving The Bachelor and The Bachelor Mansion is what
We're starting several, so.
Yeah, I feel like what we do at Game of Roses is very close to that. Yeah. We're one step away.
You need to honestly step up your meme game. You need to make things look like it's been screenshotted like 11 times already and then have, the caption about that's what I really think that you should start making those.
All right, I like that idea a lot.
Do you know this man? Did you know in 2007 he was spotted in the background of this photo with Hillary Clinton? That is Chris Harrison.
This is fucking fantastic. I will get on this immediately. I love this idea. Like deep conspiracy theory shit.
Let's make one for this episode to go on our Chatty Broads where we're all in the background of some photo with elites and with Chris Harrison in the front.
Yes.
I've got it. I've already got it in my mind.
This is fantastic.
Workshop. Anyway,
send this to me at some point. Just send me some notes and I'll be happy to make it. So Vanessa raised her love level to level 4.
Just got to get to this love level rise. You can do it, Clues.
And we are made to believe that they had sex. And then at the rose ceremony that night, Rachel gets eliminated. She sheds a few tears, and we realize that we're seeing the final moments of the longest run in the history of the game by a black player up to this point. And this comes literally in the same week that Trump is elected president. Wow. So her exit speech is superb. She says, it's hard to hear how great you are and still not get chosen. That's the story of my life. Maybe I didn't show how great I am, but I want someone to have that undeniable, unconditional, inexplicable love for me. And I want to feel the same way back. So I guess it's back to square one. This is a perfect bachelorette speech, setting up that she knows she is capable of love. She is ready to find it again. And let's begin the journey.
Beautiful.
Then we have Women Tell All. It's the first reunion show of the season. We're in the era where you have these cutesy show-related costumes in the audience. But this time, it's a couple Make America Corinne Again red baseball hats with white letters, which they cut to a dozen times throughout this Women Tell All. At this point, Trump won the election a month ago. And it's the most overt political presence we've ever seen in the show. And it is in clear support of Trump. I mean, they really don't have a political presence in the show at all. This is the
not
most
at all.
overt we get. During Women Tell All, you traditionally hear from 2 or 3 of the top-seeded heartbroken players, the villain, greatest controversies, possibly next Bachelorette. This time we have Liz Sandoz coming on the show, having already had a one-night stand with Nick, as well as, of course, a reprisal of the Corinne show. During Liz's hot seat, the women say that Liz isn't just the loose woman from Jade and Tanner's wedding that the show painted her to be, that they know the real Liz, and she's actually a humanitarian. And what's interesting about this to me is that they never blame the producers or the edit, who were the ones that actually slut-shamed her and intentionally hid any other aspects of her character. But during Taylor's hot seat, which I guess we'll see come up again, Corinne makes this power move of leaving her chair, going to get a glass of champagne. This is once again her show. She immediately follows it up during her own hot seat by playing a PTC that we never saw in the course of her season, that her mom had ovarian cancer, which is one explanation for her nanny, Raquel. And while the story of the season is definitively the rise of Rachel Lindsay, the Corinne show, I would say, is a close second. We wrap it up with Rachel's hot seat. She's chosen as the first non-white bachelorette, plays it perfectly. We sense we could be entering a new era of The Bachelor. Then we get to the finals.
And once we get into the finals, we get the first and second meeting of the family. It's Raven first, followed by Vanessa. These both go well, as they usually do. Although in recent seasons, like PPs, sometimes they can go wrong. But the main takeaway from these meetings of the family is basically Nick Viall's family's faces, specifically his mom and dad. They are old and tired and sad. He has put them through the fucking ringer. 4 years of their lives, not just Nick Viall's, but 4 years of the family's lives have been wrapped up in this fucking show where he's just parading woman after woman to come meet them and be like, I might marry her. I might marry her. I might marry her. Literally every 9 months, he's doing this to these poor fucking people, and they have to just sit there and take it.
That is actually bizarre. They've been on 3 seasons of the show.
I mean, I have to commend their patience, my goodness. But we've both said that our parents would never go on it 1 time, let alone 3.
No.
Exactly. I think Nick Viall is just so good at getting people to do whatever he wants. He's just like, come on, mom and dad, I'm just going to go on it 1 more season. Come on, mom and dad, I'm just going to go on it 1 more season. Like again and again and again. But in the end, they basically give him non-advice, which is common in these finals as well. We like them both, whatever you choose, whoever's going to make you happy. And then we get the last 2 dates. Vanessa's up first. They're traipsing around the snow-covered forests of Finland, and we get this weird shot of a dude dressed as Santa Claus peeking out from behind a fucking tree watching them from the woods. And you're like, wait a minute, what the fuck is going on here? And then they meander into the forest, and there's a hut with smoke coming out of it. And Nick's like, oh, let's go in. And it's Santa's cabin. And there's this Santa Claus in a fucking cabin delivering romance and relationship advice to them. And it's worth noting
I don't remember that. I think I've blocked this out.
Oh, yes. I
many
recall.
people block
Is
the
this
Santa
not
Claus
a big part of
moments.
the GOAT episode? What?
They barely showed the Santa Claus in the GOAT episode at all. We saw 2 seconds of him.
Well, we see much more of him, not only in this episode, but in the Bachelor franchise as a whole. Santa Claus plays a very important role. We see him in almost every Bachelor season in one way or another. It's some group date or a one-on-one where Santa Claus shows up. Sometimes a player will be dressed as Santa Claus. We think that it has to do with linking back to like the Christian audience, that it's hinting at Christmas. So and also bizarre. The Bachelor takes place in the Christmas months.
Although it doesn't air during the Christmas months, so that's just odd. Wow.
I'm telling you, go back and watch the Bachelor seasons. There are Santa Clauses everywhere. And this is one of the most...
Santa sightings as far as the eye can see.
Yeah. Oh, weird. And I'm telling you, if you rewatch this, that shot of Santa peeking out from behind this tree, you're just like, what the fuck? It looks like he's going to murder them. I mean, it looks like this is a man trailing 2 people into the forest to take their lives.
I'm writing down right now a note to go look back on the Santa Clauses because now I'm fascinated.
Please, any information you get, please relay it to us, because this is one of our conspiracies that we're working very hard on.
Oh no, I will follow both of you into the dark, and I trust you both completely.
Any early theories on symbolism? I mean, like you said, it's kind of brings in this Christian bizarre.
It also has to do a little bit. I mean, I don't know if the producers are aware of this, but a huge component of The Bachelor is this paternal, authoritarian, patriarchal kind of system, that it's like an older Chris Harrison is telling you what to do at every step. This is how this is going to work. You're going to do this, this, and this, and then this will happen. Santa Claus is another one of these kind of authoritarian paternal figures that's like, I'm going to come into your house and give you presents. Leave me some food, God damn it. You know?
Show me your gratitude.
You know, see that stuff.
Yeah. Anyway, then
even though Raven his existence is just a lie, it's just a figment of our imagination.
All part of the lie that they're telling us.
Oh my God.
And then Raven gets this ice skating date, and it's kind of like played tonally very similar to her first orgasm montage. There's poppy music, and it's fun and lighthearted. And then we get what we get every Fantasy Suites date, every finals date, is Neil Lane materializes with his briefcase full of blood diamonds, and we get the shots of the diamond rings. And this is very similar to what they do in the finals of any major sport. They show you the trophy. This is what the 2 teams are playing for. And you get these super close-ups of these giant gleaming diamonds. And we get the sense that, like, here we go. Somebody's getting that. We're about to watch the final plays.
Worth the price of a house in the Midwest, literally.
Exactly. And so Raven is first up. She gets dumped, has a gracious acceptance. Her exit speech is kind of a garden variety. Am I even lovable? And it's a solid attempt at Bachelorette, but she couldn't have known at this point that the crown was already on Rachel's head. And then Vanessa gets the proposal and the final rose for the season. But interestingly, we know she did not want this proposal. She appeared on the Let's Talk About It with Taylor Nolan podcast, October 22nd, 2019, and divulged that she had a conversation with Nick about waiting to get engaged and just dating outside the show. Now, not only did the producers not air this conversation, she also explained that Nick then hardcore pressed her and convinced her to accept the proposal. So she knew it was happening before it happened. And we know this is likely also at the behest of the producers, who need that final shot. The guy down on one knee, ring box open, and they get it here at the end of the last episode.
And finally, we have After the Final Rose. It's the second reunion show of the season. First, we hear from the most recently heartbroken person, Raven. The show has humiliated her time and time again with this public dumping and the psycho orgasm montage. And she receives her invitation to Bachelor in Paradise, and all is forgiven. She gets first female stand in return for her suffering and ends up getting engaged to Adam G. on it, that man who carried a little doll around of himself on Rachel's Bachelorette season.
Oh my God.
And next, Chris Harrison.
Oh no. Oh God, oh no. Oh Lord Jesus.
A true prize. And Nick Harrison rejoices. He brings out the happy couple to reunite for the first time in public. Nick and Vanessa, they seem to almost be broken up. I'm not sure exactly what the timing was on that. But finally, Rachel's in the hot seat. Chris Harrison announces an after the final rose curveball. He says they're going to start her season at this very moment. They roll in a mansion backdrop, and she meets her first 4 guys on stage. We get our first introduction to Dean Ungler, a.k.a. Deanie Babies. He tells Rachel that he's ready to go black and never go back. So we start her season with this fetishization of her race. Perhaps we are not entering a new era of the Bachelor wokeness after all. And that's the end of our season. We have the final RQs, rose quotients. We got Raven at 2.33. Vanessa at 2.55, Corinne's at 4.33. Best of the season, Rachel Lindsay, 1.71. I mean, there's all the evidence you need that this was her season.
I expected Corinne's to be way lower. That's so interesting.
So did I.
She never got one-on-ones. She never had one-on-one date. And that's a huge opportunity, obviously, to get a 0-point rose.
For this season, we also had total tears, 57. Just in comparison to PP's, we had total tears on PP's season was 103, so a lot less crying. Total kisses, 119, versus on PP's, we had 179. Total PTCs, we had 12. On PP's season, we only had 5 PTCs. And 7 total hoojus, which we saw 22 of on PP's season. So way more hoojus, kisses, and tears on PP season than Nick.
So Peter really took that whole piece of that, the two of them looking alike and Nick taking him under his wing, and he really tried to outdo Papa Nick, huh?
Yeah, potentially. I think PP, for my money, had no idea what he was doing at any time, and the producers were just able to like manipulate him left and right, almost like he was a remote control toy.
He also is vastly more emotional than Nick as just a person.
Yes,
his personality, you know.
Yeah,
we fully
and a lot
believe
of those
that
tears came from Sweetnums.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
We fully believe also that that Pete was convinced that he was going to like find his wife. We believe that he came in with true earnestness of like, I'm going to find my wife on this show.
Well, I mean, in the same way that we kind of analyzed Nick's childhood to really get into like what kind of person is he, I think he was kind of hardened psychologically by growing up with 11 kids. That environment forces you to become your own person and figure out how to like either present yourself to your parents to get more attention or fade to the background. Whatever your identity is going to be, it forces you to make that very quickly and to adhere to it. PP only had one brother.
Only Jet and Jack.
Only Jet and Jack.
Only Jet and Jack.
And I think so he got a lot of attention. And I think primarily, as we saw from Sweetnums, her performance in his season was constant tears of joy, tears of sorrow. Like her only reaction to anything was sorrow, or was at least the presentation of it. So drama. Every woman that makes it to his final rounds, they're expert criers. Victoria Fuller. I mean, Jesus Christ. That was her whole game, was crying. Yeah, it worked like a charm on him. He had no chance against these women.
So we said the same thing.
Now we're trying to do another season, though.
Sorry. So Peter's season starts night 1.
Oh my gosh. They're all connected.
When are you doing a breakdown of Colton's is what I want to know.
What's that?
When are you doing a breakdown of Colton's season is what I want to know. And I especially want to hear your thoughts considering all of the various press interviews he's been doing as of late.
Yeah, I mean, eventually I'm sure we'll do one of Colton's season. We did listen to the Reality Steve thing. I found that very interesting because up to that point, I never anyway saw anything that gave me what I thought was a real presentation of kind of who he is and what he thought about stuff. And I thought the Reality Steve interview did that very well. I liked him a lot more coming out of that than I had up to this point. And, the thing that I found most interesting about it, I guess, is that he openly admitted he perceived it as a game. He studied it like game film for a football game before he went in, and all the kind of behind the scenes dealings he was doing with Tia and how he was just kind of like trying to orchestrate a long run through it. He was very candid about that. And so for me, it really is just validation of everything that me and Lizzie are doing at Game of Roses, where we're like, no, it is a game. That's how these people view it. And now you've got a Bachelor saying that, just like openly saying it.
Yeah, he was speaking directly to us, I believe.
It was very validating, I'm sure. Yes. It was. There were so many moments. There were so many moments in that interview that it was just like, what? Taking so many notes. So in conclusion of Nick's episode, you continue to believe after on ×2 speed watching all of his shows that he is indeed the GOAT of GOATs.
Yeah, I mean, we're going back and looking at some older seasons as well. We're literally watching every season at this point. And there is a player named Mary Delgado from season, 4 and 6?
4 and 6.
She did a Nick Viall. She was a player in 2 seasons and made extremely long runs. She made it to 3rd place on 4 and she won 6. She is Latina, so she was groundbreaking.
Latinx. Yeah.
Wow.
And she's a very strong player. And so I'm not saying that Nick patterned himself after what she did, because they do have very different play styles, but there are other players we're finding now as we're going back and looking at like the old history of the game who were able to do things that were like extremely remarkable, especially because in those early seasons, the format of the game wasn't solidified yet. Producers were doing extremely experimental things with just even the construction of it, you know, like in her seasons, there weren't first impression roses. There weren't group date roses. There weren't one-on-one roses. You had to endure that rose ceremony every fucking week. It's brutal.
I think she also has been buried because she assaulted the Bachelor after they were engaged. I don't know if you remember that.
Oh, I did not know about this.
I don't know anyone named Mary Delgado. No. Don't remember any contestant in the history being named Mary.
Beyond our reach on this one with season 4 and 6.
These are in the dark seasons. These are 2 through 7. They've been buried, but
yeah, you have to do a lot of searching to find them. Yeah. But no, in the contemporary game, as we know it now, the 10-round game, first impression roses, one-on-ones, group date roses. I mean, I think Nick, for my money, is the best player who ever lived. Even just what he did in Caitlin Bristow's season, crashing the season with the producer's help in episode 4 is like, that alone is a feat that I think it will never be matched ever again.
I was super impressed by what he did on Andy's season, because it is his first season and he comes in and he's kringling her left and right. He brings presents. He's reading these letters to her.
He's a student of the show.
He does a knock. I mean, that's high level play, and it's only his rookie season.
And if we know anything about Nick, we know he is a student. He is a learner.
Student of the show, for sure.
Now, on top of it all, too, it's like Caitlin's season and his season as Bachelor, in my opinion, 2 of the greatest seasons ever. Some of the greatest dates, best contestants. I mean, I know Pase case, you said Caitlin to you was the greatest player, and Bachelor Clues, Nick to you, and he was involved in both of those, which is fascinating. I just think you have
to. The Bachelor is really kind of like a woman's game, because the female players have the most Instagram followers. They have the largest followings after the show. I mean, some men break through like Nick, but it's a lot harder. And like women, it's kind of set up this pipeline for them to sell clothes and makeup and shit after scrunchies.
Can I make a prediction off that note? I predict that Jason will propose to Caitlin following her winning Dancing with the Stars or losing Dancing with the Stars, whichever happens.
100% agree. And I think she's winning.
Definitely will.
That's already set. Like, she can break both of her legs and be out there on crutches. She's winning.
She will win.
It doesn't matter.
She will win. Yes. Now,
we've definitely had our own conspiracies about Vanessa getting proposed to right before Nick's GOAT episode. It's great timing.
So, yes, it was interesting. Vanessa was on the GOAT episode, and I believe it was filmed before she got engaged, because they didn't mention that, and I assume they would have mentioned it. Nick's hair was also very short in it, and it looked like how he cut his hair like 2 months ago or something. Yeah. But
because when we filmed with him, he said he had already filmed for it.
True.
Yeah.
But
That is
You're
some
watching
deep
with a very
shit you're talking about now. You're fucking looking for evidence in people's haircuts?
I'm just like,
Shit. Oh, man.
Oh no!
Does he still
Jess,
have
what
that?
has happened to you?
I see another gray hair. Aging. It must be in the future. No, but it was.
Do you remember when we were watching Love is Blind and we were like, Giannina has eyelashes on in this cut, but in the next cut, she doesn't have her eyelashes on and she has her
Yes.
blush applied. Yeah.
Starting to lose our minds. But indeed, Vanessa had an interview with Chris Harrison on the GOAT episode, which in previous GOAT episodes, they did not show a contestant interview with Chris Harrison if the relationship wasn't successful. The final person they would just show
The breakup scene,
and then they'd show the Bachelor or the Bachelorette. It was interesting. They showed Vanessa. They talked about her relationship, but didn't mention engagement. So it was beforehand. But then the final scene of the GOAT episode is Chris Harrison teasing that he has a special announcement, a special gift for Nick that Nick will never see coming. And because of this whole Dancing with the Stars piece, I'm going, oh my God, what are they setting Nick up for? What are they going to gift this man who deserves all the gifts for killing it on all these seasons? Okay. And of course,
Was Nick on Dancing with the Stars?
yeah.
Yeah, so I thought, Jesus Christ.
So of course, Nick expects then, because it's getting teased, that they're about to drop some major, like, you know, whatever. Chris Harrison's going to make him his, like, you know, the godfather of like the children or whatever. And they say he's filming with Nick and he goes, Nick, I know that you got the gift that we had sent to your door. And it's this big frame looking thing that's fully wrapped. So Nick takes the gift and he looks so excited. And he's like, we have something secret and special for you. And Nick is so excited unwrapping it. Like he knows it's going to be a certificate of something important. He opens it and it is a commissioned painting that says Nick V on top with Chris Harrison front and center and Nick in the background of one of the scenes of his season.
I have to have that painting.
I'm going to steal the Declaration of Independence.
Do you know about his pit gallery?
Do you have art?
You have to tell them. Clues.
Do I? This is my own dark admission, Jesus Christ. Okay.
Tell us about
I'll just say this. As this show just keeps sucking us down into deeper and deeper levels of what we call the pit, which is the detrimental psychological hole we've dug for ourselves where our fandom now resides.
Yes, of course.
I've become kind of fascinated with the artifacts that are produced in the game. The various, like Nick's letters or the poem that he gave to Andy, or any of the paintings, like Hannah Celeste gave a painting to PP on night one. Any of these little things that the players have created in service of the show are absolutely fascinating to me. And I know they're just somewhere in a storage locker on the Warner Brothers lot. Like the production keeps all this shit somewhere. And I have become obsessed with trying to find these things and acquire some of them. And so that obsession has
Do you
now,
want some of my date cards?
Oh my God, I would fucking love that. That would be, at this point, the pit gallery only has one piece in it and it's nothing from the show.
I'll frame
but that
it.
would be the centerpiece. That would be the centerpiece at this point.
I'll frame it.
But yeah, my obsession kind of fanned out from there because I was like, I have no idea how to find these things. And then I was just scrolling through Instagram one day and I saw Alex Dillon, who was the sloth on season 23, Colton's season. She did a painting and she just had a picture of it. So I DM'd her and I was like, hey, I'd love to buy that painting from you. And I bought the painting and I now have it.
How much did you pay for it?
Alex Dillon was a night one girl, by the way. Clues has bought a painting by a night one girl.
Yes, but the sloth, I will say.
Yeah, one of the most impressive night one girls of all time, in my opinion. She didn't even wear this. I mean, yes, she was wearing a sloth costume, but she role played the sloth. She spoke slowly. She moved slowly. She did the whole thing. Like it was brilliant.
Yeah, okay, she's my dream girl.
If there was like some sort of, what would you call it? A charity auction with a bunch of these different relics from The Bachelor. Yeah. How much money would you cap out at spending in one of these types of auctions?
What's in that auction? What's the object you're talking about? Is
brick.
it the vial?
A piece of wood from the fence jump. Ooh.
I'd go. How big's the piece?
Well, you can have multiple. Like I'm saying, you set yourself a budget for how much you're going to spend during this auction. There's a variety of different relics throughout the seasons.
Look, I don't know, because there's so many interesting relics. To me, kind of like top of the top is the necklace that Nick Viall gave to Andy Dorfman that contained sand from the beach where he told her he loved her. That artifact, to me, I would spend $500,000 on it. Maybe. On down the list to like this painting I bought isn't even a part of the game. It was just made by the sloth. That ain't getting that kind of price tag. You know what I mean?
Beautiful painting of a woman.
Yeah, it is great though. I love it. It's hanging right behind me, and it's entitled Munica, and it's great.
I bet some girls would sell their night one dresses. Is that creepy? That might be kind of creepy to buy.
Yeah, to me, it's more about like the dresses and stuff. I feel now I'm like, look, there's the pit gallery, and then there's the pit artifact room. Like
sure, you could have the 12 red dresses all lined up on the wall.
My God. That is fucking incredible. The red dress room. You just walk in, and it's like all of the Nick Viall.
It's just above your bed, and it's just like
definitely get that.
Listen, I'm not saying that it's going for sale, but I'm not saying that the actual windmill,
they brought it to the fucking Grove after all.
Wait, what?
They brought it to the Grove.
Well, not the actual one.
No, but a replica.
You
didn't know about this?
Oh God, no.
Are you kidding me? They set up a whole windmill at the Grove as a photo op and promo for Pete's season.
For people to take photos inside the windmill and
I
be
cannot
like,
believe I missed that. God, I am mad at myself.
Hannah took
Clues
a photo
is right
in front
next
of
to
it.
the Grove too. This is devastating.
oh no.
It is. You have no idea how devastating it is. God damn it.
Up your game.
Well, yeah, I know. Once the pandemic clears, I'll just have to go to the Grove every day, just in case.
Waiting.
Just hoping. But listen, back to this Nick piece with Chris Harrison.
Wait, you got to book a room at La
sorry.
Quinta, by the way.
Definitely have to book a room at La Quinta. Try to get the room.
Can you book a room?
I mean
For the future.
after.
You could probably book out for February
It might
or
be
whatever.
haunted.
You guys could record an episode in La Quinta.
In the presidential suite?
Yes.
I think we should definitely do that and play pickleball.
Yeah. In the 120 degree heat, we see who drops first.
But, okay, so back to when Nick opens this teased thing by Chris Harrison.
Oh, yeah.
Which clearly is being teased like he's about to be gifted something like Caitlyn was gifted. His face, when he opens it, is the most priceless thing. He looks he's trying to smile. He's trying to put on a brave face. He's devastated. Clearly devastated.
He probably thought they were going to like ask him to be the Bachelor again.
That's what I'm saying. They were going to give him a high honor of some sort. And then after the credits roll, Nick opens it and says something like, well, it's not Dancing with the Stars, but I'll take it. I mean,
I feel for him.
Devastating. How dare they do
It's
that
like when
to Nick?
it's like when you tell your grandparents exactly what you want for Christmas and you talk about it all the time and then you open it up and it's
socks.
Yeah, socks was the first thing that came to mind. And you're like,
that's a fucking...
Yeah. Your eyes are dead.
It's a metaphor for his entire career in The Bachelor.
It's
getting
devastating.
so close to the prize he wanted, and then fuck you, you don't get it.
It's
every time. And now they're just taunting him. God damn, they're evil.
Think about this though. Think about the timing of it, right? So now we know that JoJo has taken Chris Harrison's place for some episodes.
Oh my God.
This was filmed 2 months ago. Did Nick think that Chris Harrison was about to pass on the torch? Nick, with his successful podcast, been doing great. Did he think that Chris Harrison was about to tell him that he was the new host?
If he ever thought that, he is the most delusional person on the planet. We've all seen Nick Viall act. Look, he's a great player, but he's not an actor. He's not a host. He cannot do what Chris Harrison does. You have to be a cipher to do what Chris Harrison does. Nothing behind the eyes. And there is still pride behind Nick's eyes, unfortunately.
There's
Chris Harrison
hope.
don't have that. Exactly.
There's hope.
Chris Harrison is just like two fucking voids staring out from behind blank eyes. And if
Also,
you don't
can't
have that,
you can't have someone who's competing with the Bachelor for the women too. He would need to be married or something.
What about Lauren
diffuse
Zima?
that sexual tension.
I wonder if she's bummed that she didn't get to fill in. Speaking of which, that's the last thing I want to ask about is what your opinion is. We were discussing this. Was it last week or the week before? I can't remember. JoJo filling in for Chris Harrison.
Yes.
Thoughts on that choice? And thoughts on whether or not he knew what he was doing when because Jess thinks that he doesn't know that he wasn't going to come back, going to get to come back for 2 weeks when he went and dropped off his son in Texas. I say that he absolutely knew because it had to have been coordinated. I want to know what.
I think it was a fatal mistake.
I don't.
Pase case, what you got?
I think there's a combination of actual mistakes going on with this COVID stuff and a disinformation campaign where they're just like, isn't this funny? All of this weird information coming out of La Quinta. I think the JoJo thing, I believe I saw something that maybe she was there before for filming a group date or something. I think that she's the perfect, like, non-threatening person to replace Chris without him throwing a hissy fit. And in my opinion, maybe the hottest bachelorette. So that just makes sense.
I think that there was absolutely no way his trip to take his kid to the to TCU outside of Dallas was not 100% scheduled and sanctioned by the producers. I mean, they're in a fucking lockdown bubble. Everything that is going on there is known about. You're telling me they didn't know Chris Harrison was going to leave for 2 days and get on a plane and fly his son? I mean, absolutely they knew. The mistake was Chris Harrison posted a fucking picture on Instagram. And then the producers were like, you dumb fuck. I can't. Now what do we got to do? We have to publicly face this and say, you fucked up. You have to come back in quarantine. We're flying in JoJo. The JoJo was like a scrambling measure. They were just like, who's around LA that is willing to do this, who has enough clout to come in and isn't going to be a disaster on camera? Let's get JoJo. And
but isn't going to be, like you said, Pase case, an actual threat. Someone who actually can't fill the shoes of Chris Harrison.
And if she was already
like,
there, like you were
Higgins
saying,
or something, would be threatening to him.
Yes, that's it. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, they had to be believable as interim host only. But yeah, I couldn't believe when he posted that picture. I was just like, dude,
also,
what are you doing?
Host. Yeah. Remember we were like, why didn't they have Rachel host? She would have been great. That's another
reason. Threat.
Mm-hmm.
She would be a fantastic host.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's who I would choose to replace Chris Harrison, but I don't think they'll ever do it.
Of course, and it would make sense considering all the circumstances. It would be like, this would be perfect. Like, this is a perfect combination going on, like crowning forth to the next Bachelorette.
Like, do you think that they would replace Chris Harrison during his lifetime? Like,
or will his actual...
When would they ever?
They'll be on a ventilator. Like, not from COVID. I don't want to get dark.
It's going to get to a point where he's going to be like too old to be asking people about their virginity and shit. And it's going to be
so true.
Like more grotesque than it is now. And they're going to have to get rid of him by that point.
Maybe that's why they're wanting to start this senior Bachelor thing so that they can transition him. Maybe Fleiss is slowly trying to transition Chris Harrison so that it's not creepy to become the head of the Bachelor.
Is still the head of everything, even though he attacked his pregnant wife. It definitely takes a lot to get replaced.
Go back and watch some of those early seasons 2 through 7. Mike Fleiss is on camera in a lot of them talking about how they found the hottest girls for the hot tubs.
Oh,
well, it's rough. It's really rough.
Something that I remember learning, and I believe I learned this from, I think, the very first time I ever listened to your podcast. And I ran to you and was like, you're not going to believe this, is when you both discussed the fact that Mike Fleiss has like produced 2 things, being Bachelor television and Hostel, the horror film series.
Exactly.
Where they keep people in separate rooms. Yes.
Yeah.
I mean...
And Hostel is fucking scary.
I can't watch it. And I like horror films. I can't do Hostel. It's too much.
Too dark.
Too dark. Much too dark. Oh, well, I have to say that I continue to be awed and amazed by the both of you and your breakdown. And somehow, what I thought was just a wonderful season watching Nick that I enjoyed. We're talking about making Corinne great again. We're talking about the election. Now my wheels are spinning. I will not sleep tonight. I will be writing up late into the wee hours processing
the Charlie meme.
Charlie meme. What is going to happen in Matt James's season? I just can't. I can't process all of it. So thank you so much for your skills and talents and
many blessings. Five blessings to you.
Oh my God. Well, thank you guys for having us on again and allowing us to delve into that breakdown, which we've mostly just been doing to ourselves for all these seasons.
I know. It's really a pleasure. I mean, we love what you guys do, and we're always happy to come on here and get to have our private conversations with each other publicly or to have other people laughing at us. So it's not just us being like, no, you don't understand. They said make Corinne great again 4 times. That is a coded signal.
Oh, well, we love you both, broads.
We'll be returning.
You can find them at Game of Roses Pod, podcast at Game of Roses Pod, at Bachelor Clues, at Pase Case. We're going to put all that info in the episode notes per usual. And you obviously have to tune in if you have not to their podcast. And
with that, chat soon.
Broads.